This film is purely fictional. Please do not imitate it. Your like and subscribe are the motivation for me to update. Chapter 292. Su Qinyang searched for over 10 minutes without success. He finally realized it wasn't him who lost the boss. It was the boss who lost him. No one here could hurt her, but she might hurt others. Weird people are inherently belligerent. Su Qinyang didn't dare delay and hurried back to the villa to find help. He unlocked the house with his fingerprint and found Pei Lin missing. He must have been out handling internal guild matters. He then found Mo Feng, who was resting in the guest room on the 3rd floor. Mo Feng was puzzled to see him return alone. Su Qinyang hurriedly said, "Lulu is missing. Come with me to look for her." "Okay." Mo Feng quickly grabbed his coat and left. Ah Wu had just returned from outside, heading to the study to retrieve something. Seeing the two people hurrying downstairs, he curiously asked, "Is there something urgent?" "Su Qinyang, tell Red she's missing. She was last seen near the S24 store." Ah Wu knew this she was the girl. That person seemed very important to Red, so Ah Wu didn't waste any time and called Pei Lin directly. Su Qinyang and Mo Feng, the Lone Ranger, were used to it. Since they didn't need to contact anyone, they didn't waste their points on buying a phone. The call connected, and Ah Wu had just finished speaking when someone on the other end seemed to say something, and Ah Wu handed the phone to Su Qinyang. Su Qinyang took it, puzzled, and put it to his ear. Pei Lin's scolding immediately filled the receiver. "You can't even keep up with someone, you idiot." He cursed with a strong emphasis, then hung up. Su Qinyang didn't want to argue. He wanted to find Lei first. Ah followed the two of them and said, "That's Guild S's territory. There's surveillance over there." Mo Feng, "I noticed that only this street is fully covered by surveillance. Many other places aren't." Ah replied, "In our Black and Red Guild, all shops have surveillance cameras inside and outside the shops. Comprehensive coverage, but other guilds don't necessarily have that. For things like this that cost points, surveillance is usually installed in the core areas, leaving the peripheral areas untouched. That shop belongs to Guild S's peripheral territory." Su Qinyang had no idea which areas belonged to which guilds. He said, "Ah, can you give me a map of Paradise Town later? One with clearly demarcated territories?" Ah nodded and smiled, of course. Mo Feng didn't need a map. He was a veteran player. Although the Lone Ranger didn't take care of things, he had been around long enough to understand some things. Ah assigned some members to search for Wu Lu. He didn't mention her name, only her features. Wu Li's features were so obvious that they were instantly recognizable. Ah and Su Qinyang went to check the surveillance footage. Mo Feng searched alone. Wu Lu was led into a shop by these people. At this hour, the shop was deserted, with only a few guild members sitting here and there chatting. As soon as Wu Lu entered, she captured everyone's attention. "So beautiful. I never seen such a beautiful female player before, so fair, so tender, and so clean." Wu Lu was also observing these people, her eyes glancing at them. Some even blushed, but she had an innocent expression. She hadn't done anything wrong. Wu Lu was led to a room behind the shop, where a male player in his 30s sat. Wu Lu remembered him. He'd seen him while buying candy. "Zhang Qi, a new player? I never seen you in Paradise Town." Such a distinguished female player would become famous throughout Paradise Town if she showed up a few more times. S Guild loved recruiting new players. Besides being easy to bully, they also used a massive wave of players to unearth promising talent. If there was any guild that knew new players best, it was undoubtedly their own. Zhang Qi was almost certain this was a new player. "With so many people here, it's normal you haven't seen me." Wu Lu wasn't the least bit frightened, even surveying the furnishings in the room. "A new player like you, we couldn't fail to notice. But if you were a new player, how could you have so many points to squander? I saw you bought a lot of clothes and dresses. They weren't cheap. You have to run at least 10 dungeons to afford them." Yes, Wu Lu was targeted by the members of the S Guild because of her outstanding looks and unusual spending power. Entering the S Guild's territory and spending money there would attract attention. Wu Li's shopping spree not only gave Pei Lin's points to her rivals, but also made herself a target. Wu Lu was eager for this feeling of attention. She said with a smile, "Didn't you see it wasn't me who paid for the points? It was the man next to me." Zhang Qi's mind went blank for a second at her smile. His male instincts immediately spun. "Is he your boyfriend?" "No, he's the one who paid for me. I have 3 men like him." Zhang Qi instantly understood. This was a female player who used her looks to seduce men into spending money on her. There were many such women in Paradise Town, and even good-looking men would cling to the influence of female bosses. He had seen many of them, But this one was just the most beautiful he had ever seen. The matter had been thoroughly investigated, and the man could be released. But Zhang Qi couldn't bear to let go. He asked, "Have you ever joined a guild? Would you consider joining our guild? We're the largest guild in Paradise Town. Just because it has the largest membership, it can be called the largest guild? Oh my, someone once asked me if I like to join guild," Wu Lu recalled. Zhang Qi was curious. Who? Wu Lu. Gui Yao. I remember she was a team leader. Sadly, she's dead. Do you know her? Zhang Qi was surprised. Yes, she's been dead for a long time. How do you know her? Wu Lu said quietly, because I'm a long-time player. Chapter 293. Gui Yao's position was team leader, a level higher than a team leader like Zhang Qi. Wu Li's expression at that moment was very experienced. She didn't look like a newcomer. She knew Gui Yao, and Gui Yao had been dead for half a year. According to the monthly mandatory dungeon run rule, she had completed at least 6 or 7 dungeons. Having survived so many dungeons, she was already a skilled player. It wasn't an exaggeration to call her a veteran. You know, over 95% of players die in the first 3 dungeons. But Zhang Qi was still puzzled. You're unique. It's impossible that no one recognizes you. My subordinates said they were all seeing you for the first time. Just because I have a high spending power, and I'm seeing someone as beautiful as me for the first time, you brought me in for questioning. Is this the way your guild works? Wu Li's face fell, and she was clearly displeased. Zhang Qi didn't like the beauty's cold face, so he couldn't help but flatter her. That's not the reason. Today, we're mainly looking to recruit new members, and you seem like a good fit. Would you like to join our guild? If I join the guild, won't I have a boss? I have to follow orders from someone else. It's too restrictive, and I don't like it. Joining the guild doesn't require you to do anything, except that you have to tell us the complete plot of each dungeon. You can also team up with other members to do dungeons, and I can also take you there. You? You look so weak. What if I die if I follow you? Wu Lu looked at him with disdain. Zhang Qi's face instantly turned red. I'm the team leader. I have a lot of people under me. You be fine with me. It's better than that pretty boy just now. His face only just got whiter recently. He was tanned and looked terrible before, Wu Lu said seriously. Zhang Qi was a little confused, feeling that there was something different about the man before him. It had been a while since they'd been out, and Wu Lu was getting a little impatient. Wu Lu asked directly, does Gui Yao have any close friends? Someone close enough to be in the guild? Zhang Qi noticed she was constantly asking about Gui Yao. He didn't want to dwell on the death, but to gain her favor, he tried to recall some people connected to Gui Yao. Most of her team members have died in the past 6 months. I can't recall anyone close to her. Oh, there was a woman who joined the guild because of her, but left after learning of her death. She'd been coming here to sell dungeon information. We invited her many times, but she refused to join. She hasn't been here in the last few months. I heard she joined the Jingui Guild. What's her name? Li Sansi? Zhang Qi asked uncertainly. Li Sansi. Wu Lu remembered this person. Li Shanxi joined Guild S because of Gui Yao. The two must have met and spoken. Did they discuss me? Probably. I was the bond between them, and after Gui Yao's death, Li Shanxi left the guild. Wu Lu stood up and left, caught off guard. Zhang Qi quickly stopped her. Join our guild. You're so beautiful. I introduce you to the higher-ups. They definitely like you. You have endless points to spend, and the guild's experts will accompany you on dungeons. You won't have to worry about your future. All you have to do is promote me. That was his goal. Beautiful female players who entered Guild S's territory, if they were attractive enough, would be invited to join and then given to higher-ups. The person before him was the most beautiful Zhang Qi had ever seen. Even celebrities couldn't compare. Allegations of unusual spending were just excuses. This was his true purpose. Wu Lu wasn't disgusted, just impatient. A scimitar quickly materialized in her hand, and she raised her hand and slashed down hard, severing Zhang Qi's neck diagonally. His head fell to the ground, and his aorta splattered like a fountain across the room. This was Wan Yu, who had asked Pei Lin for it while out playing. Items change ownership between players, requiring a player ID to be entered before gifting, or killing the original player, rendering them ownerless and requiring one to rebind them. But with Gui, it was simple. She could just take it and use it, as if it were her own. Wu Lu opened the door and left, calm and composed, a hint of a smile on her face. No one outside noticed anything unusual, simply staring at her intently as she walked away. The moment Wu Lu emerged, she saw Mo Feng. Wu Lu walked over and patted him on the back. You're lucky today, you found me first. Mo Feng turned around, relieved to see she was alright, but also a little amused. What could possibly happen to her? Mo Feng's gaze shifted downward, suddenly catching sight of a hint of red on her white dress. He immediately asked, "What happened to you?" "I think I got into a little trouble. I killed someone, the leader of Guild S," Wula said innocently. Mo Feng said unconcernedly, "It's okay. Pei Lin can handle it." "How did you end up meeting the leader of Guild S?" "They arrested me." Hearing the word arrested, Mo Feng bristled. "Then there's no need to worry. They were the ones who offended you first. Pei Lin won't let them go." Pei Lin, Pei Lin, Pei Lin. "It seems he's the most useful little brother I ever recruited," Wula said deliberately, smirking at Mo Feng. "Mo Feng, I'm okay too. It's time to prove yourself. Come on, follow me to the Jingui Guild." Wula turned and left. "But I need to dress you up before we go. I heard that only women can enter the Jingui inner circle. Fo Feng, I pick out a dress and a wig for you, and you can just pretend to be mute." Mo Feng's face fell apart. At that moment, he felt unlucky to be the first to find Lele. Bad luck always happened to him. Chapter 294. Wula took Mo Feng back to the Black and Red Guild's territory and bought them dresses, wigs, and even some cosmetics. For such a large territory, there was only one cosmetic store. Wula thought, Jingui's territory must have a lot of women's products. Mo Feng sat in front of the mirror, expressionless, yet he looked worried. Wula painted his face with a brush, her technique casual, clearly playful. The distance was quite close, and Mo Feng dared not breathe too deeply. Having never had close contact with a girl in his life, he felt visibly uncomfortable. It was unclear whether Wula was slow to react, or if, strangely, she didn't notice the closeness at all. She dressed him with a playful expression. Mo Feng said, "Jingui is indeed a female-friendly place. They have the most comprehensive selection of women's daily necessities, and I heard the prices are fair, with no markup due to scarcity." He tried to share as much information as he could with Wula. Most women are weaker than men, and their chances of survival in brutal dungeons are even lower. Paradise Town has no laws, let alone law enforcement. In the early days, arson, murder, robbery, rape, and pillage were commonplace. Women were more likely to become victims in such an environment. The Jingui organization was slowly formed by a group of women banding together for support. The team gradually grew and eventually conquered a territory. Wulu applied blush to Mo Feng and whispered, "It's been tough." Mo Feng, after the formation of several major guilds, each guild governed matters within its own territory. With a degree of law and law enforcement, things seem less chaotic here. With guilds enforcing the law, many players are no longer afraid to cause trouble. After all, if a scandal breaks out on a guild's territory, it will bring disgrace to the guild, and the troublemaker will face a horrible death. Here, human life is worthless, but there's no clear-cut sentence for a few years. Troublemakers are simply executed. But these incidents only become serious when they become a big deal. Things aren't peaceful behind the scenes. For example, an inconspicuous player A kills an inconspicuous player B in a deserted corner. No one sees A's murder, and then someone sees the body someday, but no one cares, and they're just thankful it didn't happen to them. Mo Feng, the Black and Red Guild's territory is fully covered by surveillance cameras. It's the most peaceful place in all of Paradise Town. Wulu looked at the surveillance camera in the upper right corner and tentatively asked, "Hey, Pei Lin, can you see me?" Mo Feng choked. Pei Lin doesn't look at the surveillance camera. "A Wu." Wulu called out a name to the camera again. She only knew these two people. Mo Feng had been explaining the affairs of Paradise Town to Wu Lu. He wanted to slow things down and wait for Pei Lin and Su Qinyang to arrive, so he wouldn't have to dress as a woman to go to Jingui's territory, but things didn't go his way. Wu Lu, with her quick makeup skills, finished his hair and face, then thrust a skirt into his hand. "Hurry up and change. If you don't come out in a minute, I go in and change you." A complete threat. Mo Feng changed into his skirt in just over 50 seconds, then emerged awkwardly in his blue and white plaid dress, his expression impassive. Wulu looked him up and down, finally erupting in thunderous laughter. "Ha ha ha. Such a tall woman. Such a strong woman. Such a fierce expression." Mo Feng casually smashed the overhead surveillance camera in a silent protest. When Wulu appeared at the Black and Red Guild shop, the clerk had already gone to notify their superiors. When the superiors arrived, the clerk's face faltered. Pei Lin glanced around the shop, and when he didn't see Wulu, he left immediately. "Ah," asked the clerk, "where's she?" "She's gone, but she left a paper airplane. saying it's for you. The clerk produced a paper airplane. Aw examined it carefully, and saw writing beneath the folds. He didn't dare to open it, and immediately chased after Pei Lin. Red. Pei Lin was watching the surveillance footage on his phone, and saw her leave the Black and Red Guild, followed by a tall girl. The gate made it clear who she was. Pei Lin took the paper plane, unwrapped it, and took a quick look. His expression darkened. He said, he died too easily. The paper plane contained a single line of text. Third brother, S-Guild leader Zhang Qi wants to give me to another man, so I kill him. She did tell him the reason for the murder, but she didn't kill randomly. She was very obedient. Pei Lin was overwhelmed after reading the note, and he immediately asked Ah Wu to inform S-Guild that he would be visiting. He also wanted to settle the old and new accounts between S-Guild and Yiming. Those who offended him should be prepared to pay compensation and apologize. He wanted to carve a piece of S-Guild's flesh to replenish Lele's coffers. An hour later, the situation at S-Guild became tense. Red Joker had returned alive, and announced Black Joker's accidental death. Now Red had suddenly arrived, making things difficult. How tall are you? The inner area of Jinggui has security checks, and entry requires a female check. The outer area is open to both sexes. At this moment, at a security checkpoint, 2 women, one tall and one short, wearing skirts, were being inspected. The inspection was simple and rough. First, a visual inspection, then a hand pinching the crotch. Mo Feng looked at the inspector in front of him, and his legs involuntarily clamped together. He wanted to run. Mo Feng repeatedly glanced at Wu Lu with a pleading look. Wu Lu smiled and said, "It's okay, it's okay. Feng Feng is not afraid." It was their turn. The woman at security saw Mo Feng, her brows furrowed, and she asked, "How tall are you?" Mo Feng remained silent, staring at Wu Lu eagerly. "Wu Lu, he's 1.95 meters tall. He has good family genes. Both his parents are tall, and he used to play on the school's women's basketball team." "Okay. Come over here, spread your legs." The woman beckoned Mo Feng over. Mo Feng glanced at Wu Lu one last time, then met her smiling face. Mo Feng walked over to the examination with a fearless demeanor. The gloved woman said, "Spread your legs." Chapter 295. Mo Feng's hand against his skirt tensed. He stared intently at the hand reaching under his crotch. If it touched him, he would immediately move away. Lulu ignored him. He had to fend for himself. The woman's hand reached up, almost touching her skirt. Just before it reached her, she withdrew, saying, "She's a woman." Mo Feng was stunned and turned to look at Wu Lu. Wu Lu stepped forward, her hands spread open, legs apart, inviting an inspection. The other woman touched her, blushing slightly, and said, "Come in." "Your hands are so light and gentle," Wu Lu said, and her blush deepened. Mo Feng watched Lila teasing the woman. The two entered the inner circle. Many people were suspicious of Mo Feng's size, and some even approached, as if to stop them. But just as she was about to reach them, her eyes suddenly froze, and she turned and walked away, as if nothing had happened. Mo Feng understood. "How did you do it? You can't see it, so I won't tell you. Human eyes can't see strange tentacles." The streets were bustling with women of all shapes and sizes, dressed in pants, skirts, and everything in between. There was a woman who was clearly tall, accompanied by a small cake. This was a human perspective. But in Wu Li's eyes, countless black and white tentacles sprouted from her, spreading all around them with bared fangs and claws. Anyone who approached would be controlled the moment they touched her. Even if someone saw them from a distance, the tentacles would quickly lock onto them and control them. With such power, Mo Feng didn't even need to wear a dress, a wig, or makeup. Even if she brought a man, she could have brought him in without any effort, openly and honestly. As for why she dressed Mo Feng as a woman, of course, it was just for fun. Mo Feng always seemed quiet and reserved, and Wu Lu couldn't help but want him to do something out of the ordinary. It had been an hour since she changed into the skirt, and Mo Feng's gait had become noticeably more natural, no longer as stiff and restrained as at the beginning. Mo Feng felt more at ease once he realized no one would recognize him as a man. She followed Wu Lu all the way, wandering back and forth, even looking into shops, exploring every aisle. Mo Feng was puzzled and whispered, "Lulu, are you looking for someone?" At first, Mo Feng didn't understand why Wu Lu came to Jinggui's place. He assumed that since she was a girl, she liked to go to places with many women, and Jinggui must have a lot of things women liked. But now they had been walking for half an hour, and Mo Feng had been ready to pay her, but Wu Lu hadn't bought anything. She just looked around, her eyes lingering on food, but more often on faces. "Well, let's find someone." Wula reached out, picked up a hairpin, and pinned it to her head. She glanced in the mirror, then put it back down, her eyes scanning every woman in the shop. Mo Feng, curious, whispered, "Who else do you know besides us?" "I know a lot of people." "Do you think you three are the only special ones?" "Humph," Wula retorted. Seeing no one here, Wula turned and left. Mo Feng immediately followed, but after a few steps, he turned back, grabbed the hairpin, and hurried to pay. By the time he left the shop, Wula was gone. Mo Feng's face paled. This is over. With Lele gone, would his identity be exposed? Mo Feng quickly ran to look for her, watching for any changes in the way the people around him looked at him. Nothing unusual. Was Lele still around? Mo Feng broke out in a cold sweat. He hadn't been this frightened even in the dungeon. He was actually a little afraid of women, having never interacted with them much. He'd been taught from a young age not to hit or bully women. Now that this place was full of women, he was a little scared. And the problem was, he managed to sneak and dress like this in a skirt. The thought of what would happen if he were to be exposed made Mo Feng's scalp tingle. He wanted to call out to Wula, but opening his mouth would reveal he was a man. Mo Feng could only look for her. He walked around the street several times, and then someone suddenly patted him on the back. "Next time you don't follow me closely, I really lose you." Mo Feng turned around. It was Wula. She was holding a cup of red date tea, and the sweet aroma of red dates could be smelled through the straw. Mo Feng's expression relaxed, and he whispered, "Did you pay?" "A sister gave it to me." Mo Feng looked puzzled. How could a stranger be so kind? "It's best not to eat anything given by strangers," he said. Wula deliberately took a deep gulp and swallowed it. "I was squatting over there watching you run around. I was counting to myself, trying to see if you looked down at me when I reached 100. Suddenly, a sister came up to me and asked if I was feeling well. I nodded, and she gave me a drink and complimented me on my beauty." Mo Feng was so tall, but he only looked at those walking on the street when he looked for people, not even lowering his gaze to see her squatting on the side of the road. He looked like an idiot. Mo Feng knew what was going on when he heard this description. Jinggui was indeed a place that was friendly to women. The two continued to look for people. As they walked, Mo Feng found Wu Li's face quite endearing. Some people offered her drinks, some offered her food, and some even blushed at her. Mo Feng, a straight man, couldn't react. If the perceptive Pei Lin and the clever Su Qinyang had followed suit, they would have noticed that half of these women were simply obsessed with looks, but a few were lesbians. They had to keep an eye on Lele. Could the person you're looking for have gone to a dungeon? Mo Feng asked, noticing her frown. Wu Li's eyes widened instantly. Yes, that's possible. Ah. She looked regretful. Mo Feng grew even more curious. What does the person you're looking for look like? What's her name? What do you want to see her for? Is there something important? Wula turned around and smiled faintly. I want to scare her. It'd be fun to see her scream in shock and fear. Mo Feng was helpless. Chapter 296. Spending an entire morning looking for someone just to scare them. Sometimes Mo Feng really couldn't understand Wu Li's thinking. But she always liked to do this kind of thing, and as a subordinate, he could only support her. Mo Feng asked, "What's her name? Tell me, and I help you find her. I tie her up and scare her in front of you for fun. Now, can we get out of here first?" He felt truly insecure here. Even more insecure than in the dungeon. Let me tell you, a quiet, taciturn person like you, how could you possibly find someone? Humph, you reminded me. I can tell Pei Lin. Pei Lin has so many people under his command, he'd definitely be able to help me find her easily. Wula gulped down her sweet drink and turned to leave. Mo Feng thought he saw hope, but he realized she wasn't heading towards the exit. Wula didn't bother looking for anyone anymore. She wanted to eat, drink, and have fun here. Women really understand women better. Everything here is designed and sold to my liking. There aren't any lowly humans looking at me with lustful eyes, only women looking at me shyly. Wu Li's clear, playful voice. Don't be so shifty. With me here, no one will know you're a man. Keep your voice down. Mo Feng facepalmed. Even if I yelled you're a man, no one would pay attention. Wula put her hands to her mouth in a trumpet shape, her eyes round, as if she was about to shout. Mo Feng was quick to cover her mouth. He covered it for half a second, then suddenly realized something and quickly let go. The 1.9-meter tall figure bent over, blushing. Stop teasing me. Beg me. Please. Okay. Wula was happy today. She said, You go out by yourself? I go back to the villa when I'm done. She let him go, but Mo Feng stayed, saying he was worried about her. Wula didn't understand why he was worried. She was so powerful, who could hurt her? Was he afraid he'd get into trouble? Mo Fong didn't say anything. He followed along, carrying the things and paying. Mo Fong didn't leave because he saw a short-haired woman who looked very much like a man following Wula all the way, her eyes fixed on her. Even if Mo Fong was slow to react, he realized something. Wula was not only popular with men, but also with women. And Guy had no sense of propriety. What if that woman approached, and Wula smiled and called her sister? It would be hard to say what would happen. After having enough fun, Wula led Mo Fong out of Jingui's territory. Everything in there is nice, but it's a little small, Wula commented. Mo Fong replied, it's only 1/5 the size of the Black and Red Guild, but it's already quite good. Have they really never considered expanding their territory? If I were the leader, I'd definitely seize the territory of other guilds. The situation in Paradise Town is very stable. Although there are many internal conflicts, everything appears to be balanced. Why not start a war? Humans are too complacent. The bloodthirsty and strange Wula didn't understand, his mind preoccupied with battle. He even said, I only been here for 3 days. I can't bear to spend 3 days in such peace. Mo Feng's eyebrows jumped, a hunch that she was up to something sinister. Mo Feng quickly coaxed her, you come again. Consider these 3 days a visit. Whatever you want to do, we need to proceed step by step. Let Pei Lin thoroughly reorganize the Black and Red Guild this time, and then give him some time to recruit and train new members and expand its strength. Then, everything will be yours, and you'll be able to do whatever you want. Let's just coax her first. Their goal wasn't to have Wula wipe out humanity's last remaining safe haven. They simply wanted to invite her to their territory, treat her well, get closer, cultivate a bond, and rely on her for future horror adventures. Their motives were both selfish and genuine. Wula heard Mo Feng's panic and blinked. Don't be afraid, Feng Feng, I'm not a murderer. Mo Feng forced a small smile. He who usually had a stern face actually looked really ugly when he smiled. Practice smiling in the mirror more often, or maybe stop smiling altogether. You look better without being disdained. Mo Feng withdrew his smile. You don't think I really care about the strength of Pei Lin's Black and Red Guild, do you? Even without you, I can still kill you all. In dungeons, I have to abide by my ID card restrictions. Here I'm me, without any restrictions. Wula spoke the truth. Weird, belligerent, bloodthirsty, that's their nature, and Wula shares the same instinct. However, Wula isn't constantly bloodthirsty. She's even often calm, enjoying observation and experience. She's curious about many things. She's so familiar with the dungeon, she longs to explore new places. Now in Paradise Town, she's intrigued by many things. But it's too small. The dungeon is a cage, and this place is also a cage. She hasn't been to what humans call the real world. Is it a free world, or a larger cage? It doesn't matter, you know when you get there. The two of them left Jingui's territory, and saw Su Qianyang and all waiting. Su Qianyang was delighted to see Wula, but when he saw the tall figure behind her, wearing makeup and a skirt, he was stunned. He finally doubled over, clutching his stomach and laughing until tears came out. All also recognized Mo Feng, wanting to laugh but not daring to, his eyes reddened from holding back. Su Qianyang, you're so noisy. Wula complained, disapproving of Su Qianyang's loud, noisy laughter. Su Qianyang stumbled over, laughing, and reached out to take some things from Mo Feng's hands. How did you get Mo Feng into this state? You put him in such a difficult position. Mo Feng remained silent, his face expressionless. Wulu observed Su Qianyang and Wu's reactions, then glanced at the vague glances from the people around her. After a moment's reflection, she looked up at Mo Feng and said, I'm sorry. Mo Feng's eyes narrowed, his expression surprised. She actually said sorry? Su Qianyang also stopped laughing, startled. He stammered, I don't mean to condemn you. Wu, however, showed his high emotional intelligence. He stepped forward and said, Mr. Mo, let's go to the shop up ahead to change clothes. Okay. Mo Feng followed Wu. Su Qianyang and Wula were left staring at each other. Wula didn't understand. You're just saying I went too far. I apologized, so why didn't Mo Feng say it was okay? Should I ask him to come back and tell you it was okay? Okay. I didn't know Lulu well enough before. His strange train of thought is unlike ours. Chapter 297. Returning to the villa to rest, Wula noticed Pei Lin was gone and asked Wu, where's Pei Lin? Red went to the S Guild, Wu said respectfully. Wuli's eyes lit up. You didn't even wait for me to join you. You had something fun and didn't invite me. She turned and hurried off. Finding she couldn't find the way, she returned and called, "Ah Wu, take me there." Su Qinyang and Mo Feng couldn't stop her. They got into a black car, with Ah Wu driving and Mo Feng in the passenger seat, while Su Qinyang and Wu Lu sat in the back. Su Qinyang grimaced, "Auntie, aren't you tired? Aren't you full? Go back and rest. Get a few hours sleep, and we go out and play again. You're tired? You loser." Wu Lu scoffed. The phrase loser was clearly not her usual tone. She must have heard it from someone or learned it from someone else while out playing today. Ah Wu couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror. He didn't know the woman's true identity, but he vaguely understood Red and the other two men's attitude towards her and didn't dare offend them. Wu Lu was still too late. The silent war had already ended the moment he arrived. From a distance, he saw the members of Guild S with grim expressions, but they forced smiles as they saw Pei Lin off. As Pei Lin got into the car, the S Guild president turned around and kicked his deputy, cursing. Pei Lin's car drove away. Ah Wu turned back and asked cautiously, "Miss, are we going home now?" "Miss?" Wu Lu frowned. Ah Wu quickly said, "If you don't like this name, I can change it. What should I call you? Call me boss? No, besides those three, no one else has the right to call me boss." "Call me Miss," Wu Lu said casually. Ah nodded immediately. "Miss, what should we do now?" "Get out of the car and sit next to me," Wu Lu instructed. Ah didn't understand why, but she obeyed. Ah moved to the back seat, and Wu Lu opened the door and got out. He quickly walked to the driver's seat, sat down, closed the door, and then stepped on the accelerator. Ah quickly grabbed the handle, and Su Qinyang did the same. Mo Feng reached out and took control of the steering wheel, saying, "Drive slowly." Wu Lu took the wheel himself. "Let go, don't worry, I won't kill anyone. I'm just having fun. It's not like I haven't driven in dungeons before. I have a driver's license." "You don't look like you have a driver's license. You're not even wearing a seatbelt." Mo Feng released his hand, but he never retracted it, leaving it suspended in the air, ready to grab the steering wheel at any moment. Wu Lu drove fast, recklessly, but he didn't hit anyone or any store. Only the big guilds could afford to drive. 95% of the players relied on their own 2 feet. This car bore the insignia of the Black and Red Guild, yet it was driven like this. Did the driver have a seizure? Passers-by muttered. Is he epileptic? Did he hit the accelerator? The roar and the clatter of brakes echoed. Ah was exhausted, ahem. "Miss, I'm going to vomit." "Go ahead, vomit on Su Qinyang." Wu Lu was unconcerned. Su Qinyang was dizzy from the swaying. Looking at the round back of Wu Li's head in front of him, his vision slowly grew blurry, as if he were seeing a beagle. She hadn't stopped since entering Paradise Town, making a fuss and harassing everyone. If Wu Lu could hear Su Qinyang's thoughts, he'd definitely curl his lips and say, "I'm lucky I didn't kill anyone." Oh no, she already killed someone. Pei Lin heard a commotion and the screech of brakes from behind. He turned and saw it was his guild's car. Out of control, the driver was startled. "Red, it's about to hit us." Pei Lin stood up from the back seat, leaned over to the front driver's seat, grabbed the steering wheel, and twisted it, dodging the impact from behind. The car behind them suddenly darted forward, then drifted sideways, its body directly across from theirs. A loud brake screeched, leaving black tire marks on the road. The driver, stunned, opened the window and yelled, "How dare Red crash into someone in the car?" The driver assumed the other party was just the guild leader. The leader of the Black and Red Guild had the authority to command the car. Pei Lin sensed something was wrong. His subordinates couldn't drive like that. There was only one possibility, and he immediately thought of it, and he scolded the driver. "Shut up." Pei Lin got out of the car, walked to the driver's window of the sideways car in front, and tapped his fingers. The car windows were covered with privacy film, so the outsider couldn't see who was inside. The glass was pitch black. For several seconds, the window remained silent. The reason? "Mo Feng, how do you open the window?" Wu Lu asked. "Didn't you say you had a driver's license?" Mo Feng numbly pressed the window button. The window slowly lowered, and it was indeed her. Pei Lin chuckled, leaning over the window with his hand, his figure as perfect as a male model. He asked, "Was it fun?" "It was fun, but there were too many people. If you kill someone, you blame me. I didn't have enough fun. Outside Paradise Town is an endless, dark open space. You can go there and race. Just be sure not to get lost." At night, 3 men sat on a sofa, waiting for someone. The bells chimed, and it was early morning. Su Qinyang's eyes turned red with anger, And he pointed at Pei Lin and said, "Don't you have bad intentions? It's pitch black outside Paradise Town day or night. No one knows how big it is out there. No one who has walked in before has ever walked out. What were you thinking of letting her go there to race? And now, she hasn't come back all night." Chapter 298. Pei Lin raised his eyes and said calmly, "She be fine. I know she's strong, but it's not right that she hasn't returned so late." Su Qinyang worried. Su Qinyang's emotions were always exposed, while the other two were much more reserved. Pei Lin looked at Su Qinyang and said, "Su Qinyang, have you noticed that you often treat her like a child, even feeling that she needs protection? That's not normal." Su Qinyang was stunned. Thinking carefully, he realized that he did behave like that, but so what? Sometimes she does act like a child. She is naive about many things, full of curiosity, and quite willful, Mo Feng suddenly said. Su Qinyang quickly added, "Yes, sometimes she's a killer, but sometimes she's just an innocent little girl." Pei Lin remained composed, mocking them. "You all been bewitched by her. You truly joined her camp." Su Qinyang couldn't argue, so he stiffened his neck and said, "It's cool to have a weird friend." Mo Feng, on the other hand, smiled, his eyes piercing Pei Lin's. "Stop pretending you're no different." The three of them had only wanted to go on a horror tour with Wu Le, but now there were so many complicated emotions involved. She possessed a magical power that had captivated them. They liked this weird boss, wanted to be her good friends, worried about her, thought about her, and anticipated her response. Pei Lin pretended to see through everything and even mocked them, but in reality, he was also part of the scheme, and now Mo Feng had exposed him. Pei Lin stood up, picked up the car keys, and said, "Let's go." Su Qinyang's eyes lit up, and he quickly followed. Mo Feng asked, "Have you ever left Paradise Town?" "I went there once, and once I walked into the darkness, I couldn't see the way back. I walked for an hour or two, but I had no direction, and couldn't see anything clearly. I ended up turning back." Su Qinyang had never been out there, so he had no say. Pei Lin said, "I've been there. I drove there. The tank was half empty. There was nothing but darkness, a flat, dead silence. You two are lucky to have made it back." Su Qinyang had heard of many people who had gone out and never returned. "Mo Feng, you're so unlucky. Was it hard to come back? You must stay with us later. Don't get lost. If you do, I'm afraid you won't be able to come back, or it might take 10 days or half a month." Mo Feng's face darkened. "Shut up." Su Qinyang covered his mouth and smiled, a cheeky smile. Pei Lin, who was in front of him, raised his lips slightly. Pei Lin was driving, Mo Feng was in the passenger seat, and Su Qinyang was in the back. It was night, the road deserted, and Pei Lin sped out of town. Stone-paved roads, commercial streets, buildings. Passing by the central square, the round altar, the entrance and exit point of the dungeon, it was bustling even late at night, with players entering and exiting the dungeon, crying, laughing, and making noise. After leaving the densely populated area and driving forward, the buildings became noticeably fewer, resembling the suburbs. In the distance, there were some dilapidated mud houses, and further on, there were woods. In the clearings, there were many tents, some with nightlights, and in others, fires burning. Su Qinyang had thought himself impoverished, having lived in a youth hostel with bunk beds before. Now, seeing players living in the wild, he realized the stark social inequality among players. Most of the people here are elderly, weak, and disabled, with a high turnover rate, and they rarely survive more than a few dungeons. Su Qinyang was curious. How many new players join horror game every day? Pei Lin. It's impossible to count, because players' first stop isn't Paradise Town, but a dungeon. Dungeons are divided into easy and simple, large and small, and we don't know how many dungeons are currently open. Therefore, it's impossible to count how many new players enter daily, nor how many die. Mo Feng. So, what's the average number of new players arriving in Paradise Town every day? Pei Lin. About 100, but there are also about 100 players who enter the dungeon and never return. So Paradise Town has always maintained a balanced population. New players are constantly arriving, and veteran players are constantly dying. The players who remain are the elite. The car fell into silence. Pei Lin suddenly asked, Mo Feng, you must be one of the earliest players, even earlier than me. Mo Feng's mind flashed through many memories. Yes, I was one of the first players, and I'm the only one left. You came after me, and I witnessed the rise of several major guilds. He was calm, with a dead air. Su Qinyang was surprised. Then why don't you start a guild? You were one of the earliest players, with the right time, place, and people. Maybe those who came after you wouldn't have had much of a chance. Emophone, I don't have such thoughts. You have PTSD. You only want to go it alone, and don't believe in teams at all, Pei Lin pointed out. Su Qianyang also understood and comforted Emophone. You always encounter some scumbags in life, but not all people are untrustworthy. At least you can trust Pei Lin and me. As for Lei, sometimes you can trust her, sometimes you can't. You can decide for yourself, haha. As they spoke, the car had already reached the edge of darkness. The road ahead was pitch black, and nothing could be seen clearly. The car drove in, with its high beams on, but the distance remained pitch black. Pei Lin, get out and check for any wheel tracks. She must have been speeding, so there would definitely be traces. Chapter 299. The three of them got out of the car and looked in different directions. Emophone took a quick look and then returned to the car, clearly afraid to go far. Su Qianyang got out of the car and walked a few dozen meters before spotting tire tracks on the ground. There are tracks here. She went that way. Get in the car and chase her, Pei Lin said. The three of them climbed in, shining their headlights on the tracks, and chased her. Pei Lin was a skilled driver, driving fast and steadily. But later, the car began to swing. Pei Lin was following the tracks. Wu Lu was driving in Z-shapes and drifting behind him, leaving tracks all over the ground. Pei Lin felt like the car was about to fall apart just following the tracks. She's having such a blast here, Su Qianyang complained. Emophone, she's been racing here for at least an hour. Pei Lin didn't follow the tracks, but instead guessed her final route. Once he found the tracks, he drove in another direction. After an unknown amount of time, Pei Lin suddenly stopped. Su Qianyang was puzzled. Why did it stop? Pei Lin remained silent, his face grim. Emophone, the co-pilot, said calmly, the tank is over half full. The remaining fuel was only enough for them to drive back. They couldn't go any further. Su Qianyang's expression darkened as well. Did she not pay attention to the fuel level and kept driving forward, eventually running out of fuel and unable to return? Pei Lin, very likely. The three of them found it absurd. How could Lei, who was so clever in the dungeon, be so playful and unrestrained now? Of course she had no scruples. After all, she could do whatever she wanted in the dungeon. Although there were restrictions on her ID card, almost everything was at her disposal. She could do whatever she wanted without any danger. At that moment, for the first time, I felt that Lei was just a newbie. Pei Lin reversed the car. Emophone asked him, are we going back like this? Pei Lin, the three of us will die here, but she won't. Let's go back and wait for her. Su Qianyang said nothing, because he had nothing to say right now. Pei Lin drove back, saying, don't worry about her. She's just innocent, not incompetent. She's very strong. Emophone chuckled, are you trying to comfort us? Pei Lin glanced in the rearview mirror. I'm just worried some idiot might treat Lei like a little girl. I'm reminding him not to underestimate Lei and worry about her. Su Qianyang looked up. I'm not underestimating her. I know she's very strong. I just hope she comes back soon. Are you just so attached to her? Pei Lin scoffed. Su Qianyang challenged, can't I? I wish I could run into her in every dungeon, and see her again when I return to Paradise Town. I wish I could go back to City K, and have her by your side, right? Haha, that's a nice thought. Don't you want to take her to City X? To the beach where you used to play the tuna as a kid? Haha, why are you pretending? Emophone couldn't bear it any longer. Shut up, it's weird how you talk. Their feelings for Wu Lu were clearly pure, yet they started competing with each other over a disagreement. How strange. It turns out that love has exclusivity and possessiveness, and so does friendship. The car drove back, following the tracks, all around them pitch black. Wu Li's racing tracks were the deepest, visible all the way. Their tracks were also okay, but a little blurry on the way back. Human footprints fade faster, so it's no wonder some people get in and can't get out. After driving for about an hour, Pei Lin suddenly slowed down. Su Qianyang opened his eyes and whispered, what's going on? Pei Lin heard, something's following us. Su Qianyang, could it be Lei? Emophone denied, it's not the sound of wheels, nor footsteps. The sound was getting closer, until even Su Qianyang could hear it. It was the sound of something moving, something huge, scraping against the ground, rolling, moving at great speed. It's definitely not a person. Hurry up, Su Qianyang said. Pei Lin also sped up immediately. Emophone said, I never heard of monsters outside Paradise Town. Swish, suddenly Pei Lin braked. Su Qianyang, unbelted, was thrown forward and hit his chair. He asked, damn, why did you stop? Run! Pei Lin's eyes were filled with confusion and a hint of speculation. There are no monsters in Paradise Town, so what could be chasing us? There are no monsters in Paradise Town. It's pitch black outside, so who knows? Humans haven't explored this place, Su Qianyang said quickly. But then his expression changed, and he quickly locked eyes with the two people in front of him. Lulu is a monster. Let's take a gamble. Pei Lin's lips curled, choosing to drive slowly. The only sounds in the car were the clatter of wheels, the synchronized breathing of the three people, and the sound of creeping movements approaching from behind. Very close. The sound suddenly faded for a few seconds, and just as they were wondering, there was a loud thud on the roof. Something was sitting directly on top of their car. They couldn't see above, but they could feel that it was huge and heavy, definitely not human. The thing didn't attack them, so they just drove slowly. Suddenly, a tentacle reached out and tapped the car window, not to attack, but to greet. Su Qianyang swallowed, looking at the dark red tentacle. It resembled an octopus, but without the suction cups and covered in scales, a strange sight. There were many similar tentacles, dangling from all the windows, front, back, left, and right, obscuring the view except for the small area in front of the driver's seat. It's not attacking us. It seems like it's just hitching a ride? Su Qianyang said hesitantly. Pei Lin was unsure. Lulu? Mo Feng's eyebrows jumped. Is this her true form? The three of them were shocked. Although they couldn't see the shape of the thing on the roof, they knew it couldn't be pretty with so many tentacles. Every time they saw Lulu, she looked different. A beautiful girl with different features. A character from the dungeon storyline. They had never imagined what Lulu really looked like. Is it really Lulu? A familiar voice suddenly rang out from the roof, confirming their suspicions. Drive faster. You're driving too slow. Speed up. A shrill, eerie voice spoke with a familiar tone. The three of them breathed a sigh of relief, yet at the same time, they were incredibly curious. Su Qianyang tried to open the window to look, but the moment he opened it, he was met with tentacles everywhere, one of which even slapped him in the face. Pei Lin began to speed, and immediately, a strange, excited cry echoed from the roof. They drove all the way back, finally catching sight of Paradise Town. The tentacles on the window instantly retracted, and a slender figure arched through the open window. It was Wulu, beautifully dressed in a miniature dress. Wulu yawned and said, "The car ran out of gas, so I ran back. My legs are too slow, or maybe more legs are faster. I thought I'd run back, but I didn't expect you all to come out to meet me." How thoughtful. Chapter 300. The boss went out late at night, and the little brother came to pick him up. These three human little brothers weren't recruited in vain. Su Qianyang covered his bruised face, feeling a little guilty. After all, his first reaction upon hearing the presence of a monster was to run, not even considering it could be Lele. The three looked at her, the beautiful young woman's body, and the appearance of Miss Mary. They were curious. Mo Feng, without hesitation, asked directly, "Lele, you weren't in human form just now. What do you really look like?" Pei Lin was curious, but he didn't ask, just in case this was Wu Li's minefield. He waited for someone else to ask first. Su Qianyang, having been slapped, felt guilty, but didn't dare speak out of curiosity. Mo Feng was genuine, asking without hesitation. Wu Li's eyes shifted. "You didn't see it, did you? We only saw a bunch of black and red tentacles. Your body was on the roof, so we couldn't see it," Mo Feng said. As long as they didn't see it, Wu Li said with a smile, "To you humans, I look a little scary. I rarely use my original form, because my aesthetics lean towards human standards. I don't think I'm good looking either, but Tata says I'm beautiful, incredibly beautiful. He and I are the most beautiful among the weirdos. Got it? My original form is both scary and ugly to humans. But to the weirdos, it's beautiful. And her boyfriend's original form is also incredibly ugly." They didn't dare to respond, let alone ask. Wu Li slumped in the back seat, her feet resting on Su Qianyang's lap. She muttered, "The car ran out of gas, so I just abandoned it. I could have towed it back, but it would have been cumbersome. In fact, by the time it was towed back, the car was practically a total wreck. The brakes were completely worn out, and the body was badly worn." Pei Lin said generously, "It's okay. I don't want the car anymore. You didn't want it, I didn't lose it. I can tell you where it is. It's not far away. I don't want it anymore." After entering Paradise Town, driving too fast was forbidden, so Pei Lin drove very steadily. Su Qianyang finally spoke. "Lulu, you haven't come back yet. We were so worried about you that we had to risk our lives going into the darkness to find you. Thankfully, we found you. Are you hungry?" Are you sleepy? Go back home and have breakfast and take a nap. Mo Feng found Su Qinyang's words cheesy, but this guy really knew how to make Lila like them. Pei Lin quickly replied, the S-Guild matter has been resolved. I even got some benefits and helped you get compensation for mental damages. That's fine. That Zhang Qi is disgusting. He kept staring at my face. Ugh. As soon as they got back, Wu Le went to his room to shower, covered in dust. The three thought their thrilling night was over, and they could go back to sleep. An hour later, Wu Le came downstairs again. Who's going out with me? She's truly a demon and nuisance. If I don't follow her, I'm afraid she'd get into trouble. After all, she's full of evil ideas, and she might just go on a rampage and kill someone. I can imagine what she'd say, for example. How about I kill the leader of Guild S? That definitely caused chaos in their guild. A dog-eat-dog situation, and we reap the benefits. It'd be a big fun show, if I just show my true form and run around here, letting everyone know that Paradise Town is no longer safe. How many people do you think will be scared to death and commit suicide? If I tell everyone that the three of you have defected from the human team and are the weirdos' minions, do you think you'd be surrounded and eliminated? Will the Black and Red Guild be destroyed? A voice was already in her head. Pei Lin offered. I go out with you. Mo Feng, who had been forced to dress as a woman, and Su Qinyang, who had been abandoned, both looked at Pei Lin with admiration. Wu Le was delighted to have someone to play with, and she even gave the other two men a glare as she left. The villa door closed. Su Qinyang collapsed on the sofa. She won't want to play for 3 days without knowing why, will she? Mo Feng, it's already been a day and a night. What if she decides not to leave after 3 days? As much as I had wanted Wu Le to come to Paradise Town, I now regretted asking her. We take turns accompanying her, Mo Feng said, and went upstairs to his room to sleep. Su Qinyang also dragged his exhausted body upstairs to sleep. Pei Lin, still energetic after a day and a night of sleep, followed Wu Le around, introducing her to everything. Wu Le didn't like playing on her own turf. She preferred to hang out on other people's turf. Her beautiful face, coupled with Pei Lin's impressive figure beside her, captivated everyone wherever they went. Of course, there were also people secretly following them. Ordinary people didn't recognize Pei Lin, or know he was red, but the top brass of the major guilds knew. Ever since Pei Lin left Guild S yesterday afternoon, the members of Guild S had been keeping a close eye on him. The guild leader ordered, find out the true relationship between that woman and Red, and why he's standing up for her. In the past, no matter how many subtle moves they made, Red had turned a blind eye. But this time, they simply took the girl away, and even when she turned against them, and killed one of their men, Red actually came to collect the debt. What exactly is the relationship between these two? Last night, Pei Lin drove out of Paradise Town. All the major guilds received the news, and the senior management was shocked. The outer area of the town was pitch black. It was a restricted area. Wasn't Red afraid of death? He also had 2 new subordinates with him. One was the young man he had brought with him from the previous meeting, and the other was someone he had never seen before. After a night of investigation, he knew he was a veteran player, very powerful, but alone, with no friends. A lot of people are following us, Wu Le said quietly. Pei Lin suggested, leave them alone. What's the point of running them away? Killing them is fun, Wu Le said sinisterly. The strange murderous intent was too strong. Pei Lin said nothing, simply followed her. Wu Le deliberately walked towards a small alley, inviting the group to follow. At the alley entrance, they followed one by one. The members of all the major guilds had gathered. Naturally, they had discovered the members of the other guilds. Ever since Pei Lin announced Yuming's death, the Black and Red Guild has been the focus of attention from other guilds. Wu Le crawled along the wall on all fours, quickly climbing onto it. He then frowned at Pei Lin below, hide quickly. Pei Lin was helpless. The wall was too high, and he couldn't climb it. He could only retreat a short distance and climb over the lower wall. A group of people chased inside, but after a long chase, they couldn't see them. Why did they suddenly disappear? There are so many alleys here. Didn't you see them turn the corner? What are this man and woman doing in a place like this? There's nothing much to see. Did they notice us? Could they have come in to kiss? Ha ha ha, it's possible. I think they're a couple too. I already figured out how to report back to my boss. The two chatted, oblivious to the disappearance of the others, until they came upon a corpse around the corner, only to scream and flee with a start. Wu Le killed several people and spared some. She couldn't tell which guild she had killed and which had been spared. Dead in blood, Wu Le was in a good mood and climbed over the wall to find Pei Lin to continue playing. Pei Lin accompanied Wu Le for over 10 hours. walking halfway through Paradise Town. Finally, they reached the central altar of Paradise Town. Wu Lu ate a meat pie while admiring the human players coming and going, returning to the villa late at night. That night, Wu Lu and Pei Lin were unaware that their relationship had been circulated in multiple versions. In the S Guild, a subordinate said, "They're a couple very close. Red loves her. He never takes his eyes off her, never leaving her side." Rongshan Guild. The subordinate said, "The light man is dead. Red must have killed him. To protect his sister, his biological sister, she was discovered by the Black-Red Guild on her first day and secretly protected." Jingui Guild. "I'm not sure, but it looks like he's pursuing her. Red cares about her and is constantly trying to please her." This mysterious young woman was strikingly beautiful and had a close relationship with Red of the Black-Red Guild. Rumors circulated among the top brass of the major guilds. And the next day, the rumored Red's girlfriend, sister, and courtship partner went out with another young man, acting intimately and smiling at each other. Chapter 301. In just 2 days, rumors swirled among the top brass of the major guilds. Wu Lu was unaware of these rumors, only interested in finding ways to play with his subordinates. After playing cat and mouse for a while, it felt good to go shopping and play like a little human girl. Su Qinyang. "No, human girls don't have as much energy as you. Mo Feng. Has weirdness evolved to the point where it doesn't need sleep? Pei Lin. Lele, you're only staying for 3 days? Can't you stay a few more?" Of the 3 subordinates, Su Qinyang was completely unaware of the rumors circulating between him and the boss. Mo Feng turned a deaf ear to them. Pei Lin was aware of them, but didn't stop them, and even fueled them. Yi Ming suddenly died, and then a girl suddenly appeared, suspected to be Red's girlfriend or relative. The Black and Red Guild held many secrets. Many people were watching them from the shadows, while the real boss was having fun every day. "I'm leaving tomorrow at noon. Remember to pack up those people, and send them off to the new dungeon with me," Wu Lu instructed as he went upstairs. Pei Lin casually asked, "Can you pack us up too?" Wu Lu turned and said, "You're so reluctant to leave me." Pei Lin said seriously, "We have to go to the dungeon anyway. It's mandatory. It's better to go to yours than to go to someone else's. At least I can see you. Wow, you really love me and are so attached to me. What about you too? Do you want to come with me?" Su Qinyang, with dark circles under his eyes, grimaced, wanting to agree but hesitant. Mo Feng's android face remained silent. Su Qinyang was tired and wanted to rest for a few days before leaving. Going to another dungeon, with a cold face, he just kept working. Going to Lele's dungeon was a roller coaster of emotions. Mo Feng was the first to refuse. "I go alone in the next dungeon." Mo Feng didn't want to see these people for the time being. He'd been with them for over 2 months since the last dungeon, and he was tired of them. He wanted to be a lone ranger for a few days. Su Qinyang raised his hand and said weakly, "You're all too strong. It's hard for me to improve with you. I'm also applying to go alone in the next dungeon, and then we team up again." Wu Lu wasn't upset at being rejected. He just smiled at Pei Lin. "You want to follow me? Let me warn you, the moment you show up, Tallies will tear you apart." Tallies. Tata, Weiwei, Cici. Finally, the names were complete. Pei Lin asked knowingly, "Why? Would you let him kill your little brother? He's stronger than you? Doesn't he listen to you?" Every word was a trap. Every word was a cliché. She had so much fun these past 2 days, and Pei Lin had doted on her so much, she almost forgotten who this guy was. "You took me away from him, and he'd tear you apart. Be reasonable. You came with us, so we can't take you away. Tawizi thinks you seduced me. Wu Lu knows everything, and usually just pretends. Tomorrow Wu Lu will be gone, and tonight she finally calmed down and leave without making a scene." Mo Feng closed the door and went to sleep, while Pei Lin went off to attend to official business. After washing up, Su Qinyang couldn't help but wander around the second floor, prompting Pei Lin to come out of the study and scold him. "Are you done yet? You're making so much noise walking around. I walk quieter than a cat. How could I possibly be noisy?" Su Qinyang rolled his eyes, then looked troubled. Pei Lin noticed. "What's wrong? Is Lele really asleep? She's leaving tomorrow. Shouldn't she be partying?" "You can go to her room and knock on the door," Pei Lin advised. "But if she's asleep and I disturb her, I definitely get slapped in the face by her tentacles." "Then don't go." Pei Lin turned and went into the study. Su Qinyang caught up. "Don't you think she's too quiet? It doesn't suit her personality." Pei Lin didn't want to pay attention to Su Qinyang, but upon hearing this and thinking it over, his expression suddenly changed and he hurried to Wu Li's room. Pei Lin actually opened the door and walked in. Su Qinyang, who was behind him, felt his heart rise to his throat and shouted in remedy, "Knock! You have to knock first." Pei Lin, who was inside, turned and came out, bumping into Su Qinyang before going downstairs. Su Qinyang rubbed his bruised shoulder and looked inside. "Where's Lele?" She ran away again. This time, she didn't ask the three of them to accompany her. What good could she possibly do out in the middle of the night? Mo Feng. Lele's gone again. Su Qinyang knocked on Mo Feng's door. Mo Feng opened the door with a look of despair. "I know." A few minutes later, those who checked the surveillance cameras, those who left the house, searched everywhere for her. Wu Le had no idea her three underlings were frantically searching for her. She was squatting by the town central terrace, watching everyone coming and going, trying to spot that person. "I'm still here to watch over her so late at night." That's quite a gesture of respect. "Gui Yao, is she your friend?" Wu Le muttered to herself, reminiscing. Gui Yao's body is still in the haunted house. When the next amusement park dungeon opens, will the new female ghost NPC touch it? Wu Le specifically returned the doll of misfortune to Mo Feng and even patted Su Qinyang's head to dispel the bad luck. It worked. She was lucky. Wu Le immediately spotted the disheveled woman who had suddenly appeared. She was wearing a leather jacket and a high ponytail, her face and body covered in wounds, and her clothes weren't very clean. As soon as she stepped out of the circular altar, her scars healed at a visible rate. "Shanxi, I'm so tired and hungry." "Let's go back to the guild," said her companion, a woman with short hair. Li Shanxi nodded gently. "Yes." Wu Le stood up and followed them. Her tracking skills were truly poor. She didn't even try to hide herself, simply following them from a distance of dozens of meters. Both of them spotted her. "Shanxi, there's a woman following us." She doesn't look very old. She was wearing a beautiful white gauze dress, clean, with shiny black hair, fair skin, and most importantly, a beautiful face. They had never seen a female player like her before. "Don't worry about her. Let's go back to the guild," Li Shanxi said coldly. The two men strode forward, hurried in the darkness, intent on shaking her off. The person behind them was clearly walking slowly, but they couldn't shake her off. They were almost at the Jinggui Guild's territory, and she was still following. Li Shanxi said to his companion, "You go back first. I'll be back in a bit." The companion was worried. "Ah, what if?" Li Shanxi interrupted. "The guild's territory is just ahead. I'll be fine. She looks like a little girl." "Okay." Having just left the dungeon, his companion was exhausted and eager to get back to rest. As soon as his companion left, Li Shanxi turned back and walked straight into the beautiful girl who had been chasing him all the way. "Why are you following us?" Li Shanxi asked coldly, but upon seeing the other person's face, a hint of relief settled in. "It's not safe for a beautiful player like you to be out alone at night. Go back quickly. You sound a bit like Gui Yao now. It's been a while since we last met, and you've grown a lot," Wu Le said approvingly. Li Shanxi's expression suddenly changed. Gui Yao, she'd been dead for ages. What was so long about not seeing her? How could he have forgotten such a beautiful female player after meeting her? "Who are you?" Wu Le was about to get straight to the point when a woman with short hair and androgynous attire suddenly emerged from the shadows. "Little sister, are you a new player? Are you interested in joining Jinggui? You're so beautiful, it'd be dangerous elsewhere. In Jinggui, we all protect you." Li Shanxi turned around and saw the president. Jinggui. It was so strange for the president to show up here so late at night. Li Shanxi noticed that the president's eyes were fixed on the girl, clearly showing particular interest. So, the reason he was here so late at night was because of her. As Jinggui approached, Li Shanxi immediately bowed his head and called out, "Guild leader." Jinggui nodded, her eyes still fixed on Wu Le. "Are you interested in joining us? You were here the day before yesterday. What do you think of the Jinggui Guild?" Wu Le remembered this woman. She and Mo Feng had come to Jinggui's territory, and this woman had followed her for 2 blocks. "She looks good," Wu Le said. "My name is Jinggui. I'm 30 years old, a veteran player, and the guild leader of the Jinggui Guild." Jinggui politely introduced herself and extended her hand. Handshake, Wu Le extended his hand, and Jinggui immediately took it. She gently asked, "I'm probably familiar with over 90% of the female players in Paradise Town. You're so striking, you must be famous. So you're a recent arrival, right? Don't be afraid. Our guild protects women, and is a very friendly place. What's your name? Do you want to join us?" From his side, Li Shanxi could sense the guild leader's impatience. He liked the person before him, and was eager for her to join the guild. Wu Li's eyes darted from Jing Gui to Li Shanxi, a whirlwind of thoughts streaming down her spine. The atmosphere was quiet, and Jing Gui's hand, gripping hers, felt icy cold. A dangerous aura emanated, and the two players instantly sensed something was amiss. Wu Li's demeanor was nothing like that of a young girl. She looked at everyone with a faint, unsettling smile. That smile, that subtle glance, made her seem a bit like a monster. Just as a chill ran down their spines, Wu Li politely asked, "Sister, I'd like to be the guild leader. Is that possible?" Chapter 302. Jing Gui and Li Shanxi were stunned. What was she talking about? She wanted to be the guild leader? It was the first time they had heard such a rude and outrageous request. Li Shanxi didn't know Jing Gui well, but he knew that a guild leader would never tolerate such provocation. Li Shanxi quickly stepped in front of Wu Li and gently warned him, "Don't talk nonsense." Then he said to Jing Gui, "Guild leader, she's young, and new players are always like that." Jing Gui wasn't angry, but simply shocked by the girl's audacity. She was also thinking about something. Jing Gui continued to make overtures. "Let's be friends." "What's your name?" Li Shanxi was confused. Had something happened while she was away? Why was guild leader Jing Gui so curious about a new player, even a little respectful? What had happened in Paradise Town these past few days? "My name is Lu," Wu Li smiled. Jing Gui's expression darkened slightly as she continued, "Happy Lu?" "Yes, Happy Lu." Wu Li spoke his name without hesitation. "Lu. Don't be too sensitive to players, because a few months ago, all players knew that a special female NPC had appeared in the dungeon. She had memories, even controlled the dungeon, and could enter and exit different dungeons. She was the key to the horror game. Her name was Lulu." Jing Gui's breathing became irregular, but she suppressed her emotions and said, "You want to be the guild leader? But being the guild leader comes with many responsibilities, such as serving as a guild member, ensuring the well-being of female players, and protecting them from bullying. Can you do that?" From the moment Wu Li said the word Lu, Li Shanxi stepped aside, her eyes never leaving Wu Li. Her heart was in turmoil, and her lips trembled slightly. Jing Gui's eyes were intense, exceeding Wu Li's expectations. As expected of a guild leader, he already knew her identity. Wu Li saw through her inner thoughts and followed suit, feigning human emotions. "I'm a woman, just like you." Weirds are divided by gender, male and female, but in the weird world, abilities aren't always determined by gender, and there's no gender disadvantage, because they only respect the strong. Having played characters so many times, whether it was through the identity cards in dungeons, or just for fun with her subordinates, Wu Li was quite adept at portraying people. "Wu Li, your territory is good in every way, except it's too small. I want to expand, but fighting other guilds would kill many members. Maintaining the status quo is best. If a strong member joins, that could change things." Jing Gui hinted. "I won't join your guild unless you make me president. I never want to be a subordinate, only a boss." Wu Li yawned. It was late at night, and it looked like she was going to leave without her consent. Li Shanxi waited anxiously, hoping the two would separate quickly, so she could talk to Wu Li. The president's words were like a thunderbolt. "If you can protect the guild members, I can step down," Jing Gui said calmly. "President?" Li Shanxi was shocked. Pei Lin, Su Qianyang, and Mo Feng searched for hours before finally finding out where Wu Li had gone. Pei Lin, Lulu went to Jing Gui's territory, and she followed President Jing Gui inside. Su Qianyang was puzzled. How does she know the president? She can't have just run into him wandering around in the middle of the night, right? Mo Feng saw the surveillance footage and said, "I think I've seen this woman before, just briefly." Lei didn't interact with her. Pei Lin said, "There's another woman with long hair next to her. She must be the person Lei asked me to find, Li Shanxi. What do we do now? Should we go get her?" Su Qianyang felt that without seeing Wu Li, they were worried. Knowing where she was going, Pei Lin calmed down and said, "She should have her own plans. She come back when she's done. We can just wait for her at home." Mo Feng had nothing else to say, and turned upstairs to sleep. Seeing Mo Feng like this, Su Qianyang grumbled, "He doesn't care about Lei at all. He deserves to be fourth, last." Pei Lin rolled his eyes at him. "Oh, you admit you got your position by flattering me." Su Qianyang raised his chin. "What? You don't respect your second brother? The biting dog doesn't bark." Pei Lin didn't reply and quickly kicked Su Qianyang. Su Qianyang stood up in pain and punched back. Pei Lin dodged, grabbed the handrail, bent over, and climbed upstairs. "I complain when Lei comes back." Su Qianyang said this outwardly, but in reality, He was too embarrassed to complain, because he knew Lele preferred strong men to weak ones. Late at night, the top brass of Jingui held an internal meeting. The women in the room were mostly tall and muscular, evidently strong enough to knock anyone out with a single punch. Li Shanxi was only the team leader and couldn't attend such meetings, but Wu Le specifically requested her to attend. Jingui asked Li Shanxi to follow Wu Le. Wu Le sat beside Jingui, slouching lazily, but his eyes were always observing everyone, his smile endearing and mysterious. "President, what's up so late? Let me introduce you. This is our new guild leader, Le. You and I will be co-presidents from now on. Together, we will lead everyone forward and escape the horror game as soon as possible," Jingui announced loudly, her short hair swaying, her expression determined. The others were stunned for a few seconds by the news. In the few seconds of silence, Wu Le raised his hand. "It's not about escaping, it's about breaking out of the horror game." The slogan of almost every player was to escape the horror game and return home as soon as possible. No one had the courage to even say the word break. Tear it apart, break it. Is it possible? Even though everyone present had many questions in their hearts, they would always follow Jingui, and they would follow whatever Jingui decided. "Hello, new guild leader," a tall woman shouted. The other women immediately followed. "Hello, new guild leader." Although these people seemed sincere, Wu Le could see that their sincerity wasn't directed at him, but at Jingui. Wu Le glanced at Jingui beside him. No wonder she agreed so easily to become guild leader. It turned out her subordinates were so loyal. She was just a figurehead. These people were forever loyal to Jingui. In this regard, Pei Xiaolin needed to learn from Jingui. Wu Le despised Pei Lin, who had been pursued by a traitor for a second. At the meeting, Jingui introduced everyone in the room to Wu Le and explained some details about the guild. In the early days of the game, women held an even lower status. Their power disparity far outweighed their status. They were reduced to mere playthings, even relying on men for survival. Amidst this oppression and bullying, Jingui led them to establish a women's guild, which gradually developed into its current form. Women also have advantages in dungeons. They're sensitive to plot points, meticulous, and possess strong deductive reasoning skills. Jingui spoke extensively, and Wu Le found it quite amusing. Wu Le even felt a little regretful. "If only I had become guild leader years ago, I would have been able to secure a large territory for you." At these words, the entire room fell silent. They gradually realized Wu Le's uniqueness. As the women who had recently investigated the Black and Red Guild, they knew Wu Le's identity the moment he entered the meeting room. He was Guild Leader Red's relative and rumored girlfriend. "It's okay, it's not too late. We welcome you to join us." Jingui took Wu Le's hand and kissed it. Li Shanxi was a complete bystander, her expression tinged with dismay, for she understood. Guild Leader Jingui and the other women in the room, unsure of Wu Le's true identity, had chosen to use her as a breakthrough point, hoping to gain hope and gain something from her. Wu Le was cooperating, but she had no intention of giving them anything. She was just having fun, playing a cosplay game. She had no idea what Jingui was talking about women's rights and striving for survival. Jingui arranged a room for Wu Le. In front of everyone, Wu Le dragged Li Shanxi into the room and closed the door. Li Shanxi's fingertips trembled. "Are you Lele?" Wu Le frowned. Ask. You should just ask Lele, why are you here? That's what Pei Xiaolin did. Sometimes it's wisest to cut to the chase and get straight to the point. Why are you here? You completely exposed yourself. Did you know that every player knows you exist? And you told Guild President Jingui your name is Lu. They definitely figure it out. You're being reckless and dangerous. Li Shanxi was anxious. Reckless? Dangerous? Do these words even apply to me? Wu Le blinked. Her strength didn't require concealment, so why would she be called reckless for exposing herself? Danger. Everyone here is human. She's not restricted by her dungeon ID card. There are no restrictions. No one can hurt her. Li Shanxi finally realized what was happening, her words a bit incoherent. What are you trying to do? The Jingui leaders are all of one mind. They won't recognize you as the new leader, and you won't help the humans. You're just playing around. Didn't you answer your own question? Wu Le looked at her like she was stupid. Li Shanxi blushed, pacing around with her high ponytail swinging, her heart beating fast. The strangeness she'd been looking for was right before her eyes. Encountering this right after leaving the dungeon felt like a dream. Stop walking around. Wu Le lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking of Guiyao. She couldn't help but say, they're being hypocritical to me. Are you willing to be loyal to me? Follow me from now on. Chapter 303. Wu Lu suddenly extended an olive branch, but Li Shanxi's mind went blank, unable to grasp it. He just stared at her blankly. Loyal to you? Following you? Li Shanxi didn't understand what she meant. Wu Lu yawned. She was a little upset. She would leave at dawn tomorrow. Let me be frank with you. I'm not here for President Jing Gui. I'm here for you. I've been waiting for you for a few days, and scaring them was just a side job. Waiting for me? Li Shanxi was surprised. Wu Lu, call me boss, and I protect you from now on. Li Shanxi was confused. Why? Why so many whys? Talking to you is so tiring. Wu Lu grimaced. Li Shanxi knew she was dragging her feet. Although she didn't understand, she also understood the situation. Boss? Li Shanxi tried to call out. Well, I'm the eldest, Su Qianyang is second, Pei Lin is third, Mo Feng is fourth, and you're fifth. Remember that? Su Qianyang, Pei Lin, Mo Feng? Li Shanxi wrote them down one by one, and at the same time, her mind searched for a face. She recognized Su Qianyang, but not the other two. Okay, remember to go to the Black and Red Guild at dawn to find Pei Lin and tell him I accepted you. Bye, I'm going back. Wu Lu stood up and left. Li Shanxi, aren't you staying here? President Jing Gui had specially arranged accommodations for Wu Lu, and the conditions were quite good. No, they'd be worried if I don't go back, Wu Lu said casually. Li Shanxi guessed she was referring to the three people she had just mentioned. Wu Lu turned around. You can also come back with me, are you going? To the Black and Red Guild? The two of them going to the Black and Red Guild in the middle of the night definitely couldn't be hidden from Jing Gui. Wouldn't this betrayal be too obvious? Li Shanxi thought for a few seconds and said seriously, Boss Lele, you don't really want to be Jing Gui's guild leader, but I do. I will be loyal to you, but I won't betray Jing Gui either. Paradise Town has a lot of dark and terrible things going on, and women have a hard time here. In my opinion, Jing Gui is a good person. Wu Lu didn't understand the other party's seriousness. She simply said, I don't mean to ask you to betray Jing Gui. I just want to sleep at my house. It's a single-family villa. The villa was Pei Lin's, but Wu Lu assumed it was hers. What belongs to a little brother is his. I come find you at dawn. Look for Pei Lin, not me. I'm not here. As soon as she finished speaking, Wu Lu jumped out of the staircase window and fled. She landed easily on the 5th floor. The woman guarding downstairs was stunned. She hurried upstairs, leaned over the window, and peered down, only to see a shadow. The woman asked Li Shanxi, did the new guild leader run away? Li Shanxi. She said she was going home to sleep. Huh? The woman immediately went to inform the guild leader. Jing Gui, hearing the news, rushed over, only to see Li Shanxi inside. Jing Gui approached. What did she say? Why did she leave so suddenly? Nothing. She just said she was going back to the Black and Red Guild, and wouldn't live here anymore. Li Shanxi had concealed the details of the boss, and the 5th brother. Jing Gui's expression shifted slightly, as she looked Li Shanxi up and down. Every member of the guild was united by the solidarity of women, betraying them would result in expulsion. Li Shanxi was reserved and got along well with his teammates, but he wasn't close to anyone. She followed you all the way to the guild, I'm sure of that. Did you know her before? Jing Gui's words made Li Shanxi's heart skip a beat. Had she guessed so quickly? I don't know her. Although I'm not completely certain, I think it's almost certain. She's Lele, the NPC everyone's looking for. Are you sure you haven't seen her before? Think carefully about the dungeons you've been to. Have you seen her before? There were only the two of them here. To trick Li Shanxi into telling her, Jing Gui directly revealed the identity of the special NPC. But Jing Gui wasn't completely certain the beautiful girl was NPC Lele, and she was trying to trick Li Shanxi. If Li Shanxi admitted to having seen the girl, it would be equivalent to confirming that she was NPC Lele. Any wrong answer to this question would have fallen into Jing Gui's trap. Li Shanxi didn't understand Jing Gui, but having spent the past 2 months in the Jing Gui Guild, he knew the guild well. Lele suddenly appeared in Paradise Town, even taking him in as a subordinate. It all happened so unexpectedly that Li Shanxi's mind was still reeling. Faced with Jing Gui's relentless pressure, Li Shanxi's first reaction was to conceal the truth. I don't know her. This is the first time I've seen her. She's so beautiful, it must be unforgettable. I'm sure it's the first time I've seen her. Playing word games? Jing Gui smiled slightly, her tone softening a bit. I heard that Lele looks different in every dungeon. No one knows her true appearance yet. Female NPCs are supposed to be aesthetically pleasing, so she should always appear stunning. Li Shanxi didn't respond. The atmosphere was a bit awkward, but Jing Gui finally relented. She raised her hand and gently patted Li Shanxi's shoulder. Don't be nervous. Don't be so defensive. I don't have any bad intentions. I just want the guild to thrive, and for us to get out of here and go home. Li Shanxi nodded. Yes, I hope we can go home soon. Jing Gui left, and Li Shanxi returned to his dorm to sleep. Wula ran out of Jing Gui's guild's territory. Her sharp eyes caught sight of the car in the dark alley. Wula ran over, and the rear window rolled down. She jumped in, lazily lying in the back seat. Pei Lin immediately drove off. Su Chenyang, who was in the passenger seat, turned and glared at Wula. Wula raised his eyes. What's that look? Pei Lin, who was driving, whispered. I just received a tip-off that the Jinggui Guild has elected a new president, and it's now a dual-president guild. Su Chenyang curled his lips. You instantly gain hundreds of followers? You're just playing tricks on them. Who wants to be the president? It's exhausting, Wula said nonchalantly. Pei Lin, I think Jinggui takes it seriously. You have spies in a guild made up entirely of women? Wula asked curiously. Pei Lin smiled. Who said they're all women there? Su Chenyang was curious. Then how did he avoid the crotch inspection? Pei Lin, congenital deformity and cryptorchidism. Su Chenyang understood. I heard of little boys, like this being born as girls. Wula, confused, leaned forward. What? Can I take a look? No. Pei Lin and Su Chenyang said in unison after a pause. The second half of the night finally fell peacefully. Wula washed up, slept for a while, and at dawn, she led a group of people to the central altar. Their expressions were numb, and they followed Wulu obediently. They were all members of the Black and Red Guild, but they obeyed Yiming. Now that Yiming was dead, these trained guild elites couldn't be left to wander around and be exploited by other guilds. Wula took them on a dungeon to test their humanity. Those who passed her assessment could return to Pei Lin. Pei Lin, Su Chenyang, and Mo Feng came to see them off. They had always been curious about how Wula managed to keep them so obedient. Wula didn't hide it from them. There are many red tentacles in the air, but they're invisible to your naked eyes. They're all emanating from me. Whoever they touch will be controlled by me. I rarely do this in dungeons, because it doesn't match my ID card. You should be thankful that I use different ID cards in dungeons. The ID cards actually suppress my abilities. Without any suppression, I can slaughter all of you players. No amount of items can stop me. The three men's expressions cracked. One can imagine the scene of that slaughter. It was horrific. Luckily, Lei had the sense to follow her instead of becoming her enemy. Tavis, I'm here. Wula happily stepped into the circular altar and vanished in an instant, taking the members of the Black and Red Guild with her. The boss had returned to the dungeon. The three of them. They looked at each other with disdain. The moment the boss left, they instantly became plastic. Mo Feng stepped directly onto the circular altar, his voice aloof and silent. Su Chenyang looked at the nearby beef noodle shop and said, I have breakfast and leave. You're welcome. Pei Lin was the guild leader, and the only remaining leader of the Black and Red Guild. Without Yiming, he couldn't just leave as he had before. He had to briefly handle guild affairs before leaving. Yiming was actually useful, but unfortunately, he was too greedy. When Pei Lin returned, he saw a woman with a high ponytail wearing a black striped tracksuit. My name is Li Shanxi. Lei asked me to come here. Pei Lin wasn't surprised. Come in. Chapter 304. It was Wu Li's first time taking the player tunnel, leading a series of humans to a dungeon. As he landed, before he even opened his eyes, he could smell the damp, cold sea breeze, the ground still bobbing. Opening his eyes, he found himself in a dilapidated ship cabin, shrouded in sea fog. Outside, the water lapped against the hull, rocking the ship. The fishy smell was overwhelming, and it was very cold. Wu Li's eyelashes frosted after standing for a moment. Wula retracted his tentacles, and the humans around him gradually woke up. Where is this? Why are we here? Most of these guild members were men, with only 3 women. They had all served under Yiming, possessed considerable abilities, and frequently led their employers through dungeons. After a few seconds of pause, a wave of confusion erupted, and then they gradually quieted down. We're in a dungeon. What's going on? Why don't I remember entering a dungeon? The most important thing is, didn't you notice we were the only ones there? This was quite tricky, because they all looked up, and they all knew each other. They were clearly not in the same group within the guild, and on the surface, they weren't familiar with each other, or even knew each other, but privately, they all knew they were Black's men. They immediately responded to the information. We failed. I was arrested. Sheen and I were imprisoned together. Me too. I was arrested too. Also imprisoned. I heard someone in the hallway say Black was dead. Great, they had figured it all out. They had followed Yi Ming in the rebellion, but their plan failed. Yi Ming died, and they were all arrested, though not imprisoned together. And now we're all being packed up and sent to a dungeon? Were we drugged? Why don't we remember anything? There's one more person. Someone noticed Wu Lu, dressed in a white dress. Actually, they noticed her long before. She stood motionless, her back to them, unresponsive. Who is she? Is she human? We entered the dungeon, so why haven't we heard the dungeon channel notification yet? Every time a player enters a dungeon, an electronic voice chimes in their head, informing them of the dungeon's current status, player quests, and so on. But now, they've been discussing it for a while, so why hasn't anyone heard anything? Is this a dungeon? Wu Lu also felt that this dungeon was weak, even feeling like it would collapse at any moment. Furthermore, Wu Lu was certain it hadn't even been opened yet. Wu Lu pondered for a moment. Oh, either the players aren't in place, or the creeps aren't in place, and the dungeon isn't open. Hearing her muttering, the group behind her shuddered. Humans like to call NPCs monsters, but they all know that NPCs have a professional name, creeps, that only a small number of humans use. Who are you? Someone bolder stepped forward and asked, knife in hand, ready to strike. Wu Li's head tilted back, hanging upside down behind him, as if his neck had no bones, his dark eyes staring at them. Run! Hide. I come find you when the game starts. She's a monster. The group quickly scattered. They formed groups of 2 or 3, running in different directions. No one followed the crowd to form a large group. This was a wise choice. If a group of people huddled together and hid, they would be too conspicuous, and the chances of being found and killed were high. Several smaller groups hid separately, reducing the chances of being found and extending their survival time. Wu Lu had no time to deal with these humans. She was searching for Taz. Why can't I smell Taz? Wu Lu sniffed carefully. The overwhelming smell of the sea, even Xiao Hei's, was palpable, but not Taz. In this case, he was either not in this instance, or he was very weak. Wu Lu crawled on all fours within the dilapidated hull. The ship was enormous, 10 stories high, with several restaurants, a dance studio, a gym, and numerous recreational facilities. From windowless standard rooms on the ground floor to balcony-bedded rooms on the upper floors, it was a luxury cruise ship. But it was abandoned, dilapidated, with rusted iron sheets and muddy dust everywhere. Dead, a ghost ship sailed across the sea. Wu Lu crawled through many areas, seeing strange figures slowly emerge. They all finished their work in the previous instance and continued in this new one. Upon arrival, they received their ID badges and began role-playing. The spooky actors took their positions, almost ready to receive human players. Why do I smell human? It's so strong. Is the instance open yet? Obviously not. My other ballroom dancing partner, the spooky little spook, hasn't arrived yet, said the handsome spook in a suit. Then why is there a human scent? Wu Lu descended from the ceiling, gracefully tugging at the hem of her skirt. Sorry, I let a group in early, and there was a small incident. Wu Li's aura was so strong that the other spooks weren't surprised by her words. Beautiful lady, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just those humans who were unlucky. Wu Lu blinked. The dungeon hasn't started yet. You don't have to follow the rules. Enjoy yourself. Instantly, the others' eyes turned blood red. Some of the weird ones remained human, while others had transformed into alien masses, excitedly making crackling sounds as they followed the set of humans to hunt. Meow. A ethereal cat meow. A black cat's tail stood high, and its 4-paw pads shuffled forward. The raised tail indicated its happiness. Wu Lu squatted down. Xiao Hei, you're not very tasty. The little black cat's expression faltered for a second, and it meowed. Wu Lu, I didn't eat you without hesitation. I still hesitated for a tenth of a second. Xiao Hei said in a harsh voice, I died once, and he wasn't much better. Humph. Wu Li's eyelashes fluttered slightly, and he reached out to touch Xiao Hei's back. Where's Taz? Chapter 305. Where is Taz? I don't know. The furry tail stood high and swayed gently, signaling the little black cat's good mood. Wu Lu stroked its head, tracing its back all the way to the tip of its tail. You can't possibly not know, Master Overseer. When he called him Master Overseer, Little Black's body stiffened, but when he addressed him as Master, the tip of its tail twitched gently. The cat's eyes swiveled, and Little Black's tail pointed into the darkness. He's nearby, but he doesn't dare see you. Why? Why? Wula couldn't figure it out. The black cat grinned, a terrifying laugh. He's been watching you. Go find him. Wula couldn't smell Taz, but ever since entering this ghost fairy, he felt a pair of eyes staring at him, hot and sickly. They were undoubtedly little blacks. Wula stood up, turned, and ran into the darkness. The little black cat followed, slowly, with a cat-like gait. Wula kept dodging and relocating, instinctively blocking the gaze. Getting closer, she heard a voice. Wula climbed onto the ceiling, scrambling rapidly. With a sudden kick of her feet, she lunged forward, tumbling into darkness. She embraced a soft mass, its slime clinging to the skin of her face, its maw wide open, eager to swallow her whole. She saw its form clearly, a massive, dark brown, alien monster with countless tentacles and eyes. Its enormous mouth was engulfing her entire right arm, rubbing against her face. Used to human standards, it was hideous, but to a strange aesthetic, it was incredibly handsome, downright beautiful. A tentacle strangled Wuli's eyes, as if to say, "Don't look." Wula chuckled. "We look quite alike, except I don't have so many eyes. But I have more tentacles than you, big and small, all furry and all." There was no disdain in her tone. Taz trembled with excitement, stroking her arm and gently nibbling it with his little teeth. It felt a little numb, a little painful, but very comfortable. Wula simply stuffed her other arm into Taz's mouth. "Tada, why don't you become a pretty girl? I can't smell you either. Where's your strength? You seem uncomfortable." Wula grasped his slippery tongue, her fingers tracing around in his mouth. So many teeth. Xiao Hei was the same, his mouth full of fangs, densely packed. Taz hugged her tightly, freeing her hands. He kissed her face with his huge mouth, feeling as if he could bite her head off in a second. The tentacles slowly closed in the darkness, countless eyes slowly closed, and the dark brown alien transformed into a pale, slender male figure. Long black hair contrasted sharply with her fair skin, falling across her back and shoulders, brushing against the girl's face as he held her tightly in his arms. Wula felt an itch, wrinkled his nose, and looked up. "Little beauty." Taz lowered his head, nuzzling against hers. The handsome boy said weakly, "Lulu, I missed you." "I missed you too. The people in Paradise Town are so ugly. It hurts my eyes." Taz smiled at that, lowering his head to kiss her lips. One moment gentle, the next fierce, not a kiss, but a bite. Pain, pleasure, the taste of her blood. Taz devoured it all before retreating. "Eat more. You're so weak. Why did you suddenly become like this?" Wula wasn't stupid. She could tell Taz was weak, his strength drained. The most suspicious thing is that this instance also feels a bit shaky, as if the ghost fairy will shatter into darkness at any moment. Drinking her blood can restore some strength. Strange things can devour strange things. In the early days, strange things were belligerent and enjoyed eating each other, the big fish eating the small. But no matter how powerful they became, they couldn't leave the instance. Rotating through instance after instance was boring. The strange things that had been seen maintained a balance, no longer fighting or cannibalizing each other. During the rotating instance days, they took pleasure in human fear. "Wulu, drink some of my blood. When you have strength, go eat Xiao Hei." Eating him is very comfortable, a sense of relief you never felt before. The little black cat watching the show from behind straightened its tail, turned around, and walked away dejectedly. He cursed inwardly as he walked. It had originally thought that if Lele saw Taz's ugly true form, she would dislike him, but instead, she saw them kissing and rubbing. "No need to eat it." Taz refused to eat Xiao Hei, disgusted. "Then you eat me," Wula said generously. Taz hugged Wula and nibbled gently, not really eating him, just the clingy feelings of a young couple. Unfortunately, the scent of a human wafted over. People couldn't see in the dark. A man and a woman approached, and they thought they heard something, so they immediately activated their night vision. Instantly, they could clearly see the beautiful couple embracing in the darkness. One had a wrinkled skirt, but she was still fully clothed, while the man was completely naked, his skin gleaming white and tender. The male player immediately covered the female player's eyes, stunned for a moment, and then quickly pulled her away. "That woman is the one from the beginning. Run," the man said. "Where's that guy?" "I don't know, I never seen him." "What a sty." The creeps were so open. The young couple didn't bother chasing them. Wulu and Taz were abiding by the rules. The game hadn't started until the dungeon began, and they weren't killing humans right now. But some creeps weren't so particular. Before the dungeon even began, a human was devoured. The creeps arrived one after another. Once they were all there, a cat meow signaled the human players were about to enter. "Meow. It's cold." Entering the dungeon, The chill hit, and the players in short sleeves immediately pulled out their cotton jackets. A swaying cruise ship, red, yellow, and purple lights, the endless darkness of the sea in the distance. Deep-sea cruise ship, deep winter night. So many players. At a glance, there were at least 100. This was a large dungeon, so the mortality rate was high. Welcome, players, to the Ghost Ferry. This is a ferry sailing the vast ocean, housing guests of all classes. It's equipped with complete amenities and recreational facilities. The ferry was supposed to travel around the world, but it couldn't find land. They were lost at sea, and as it drifted further and further, this place became a hell. Players, please choose the right side on this drifting ferry and survive. The crackling electronic sounds abruptly ceased, leaving only the sound of the sea breeze. What does it mean to choose the right side? Are there many sides here? On a giant luxury cruise ship, the accommodations, from top to bottom, are definitely divided into economy and luxury classes. There are definitely places where people of different classes live, and those of lower classes are off limits. There's plenty of food on the cruise ship, but if it drifts and doesn't find land, food will become scarce. This hellish place is probably a sign that the tourists are killing each other to survive. If this were the high seas, no one would care about the murders. There were many players, gathered together, talking a lot. It was a bit noisy, but I also heard clues from the wise ones. Mo Feng, wearing a black fleece jacket, scanned the crowd. Confirming that Su Qinyang and Pei Lin were not there, he breathed a sigh of relief. Mo Feng was secretly delighted to finally be back to his life as a lone ranger. Chapter 306. Mo Feng zipped up his jacket all the way, so that when he lowered his head, his chin could touch the collar, keeping his neck warm. Mo Feng quickly separated himself from the crowd and entered the cabin alone. Some of the other people also entered the cabin. There were many players, but few went solo. Most of them went dungeon together in small groups, trying to survive together. Li Shanxi put on her coat and gloves, flexing her fingers until they felt less stiff. She glanced at the short-haired woman beside her, feeling a bit troubled. Guild President Jing Gui had gone with her into the dungeon. To be precise, Jing Gui had been following her the entire time. She watched her enter the Black and Red Guild's territory, then enter Red's villa, and finally leave. When she went to the dungeon, Jing Gui followed her all the way. Finally, she grabbed her arm and entered the dungeon together. Li Shanxi knew exactly why Jing Gui was following her. Neither of them questioned the other, a contradiction. They seemed open and honest, yet in reality, they were both hiding something. In short, they were right not to trust each other. But now, in the dungeon, one of them was the guild leader, the other a member, so they naturally had to survive together. Guild leader. Li Shanxi had just begun to speak when Jing Gui stopped her. Call me Sister Gui. She couldn't call her guild leader, it would be too conspicuous. Except in front of Jing Gui's guild members, and the top leaders of several other major guilds, Jing Gui always covered her face when appearing in front of other players, to prevent too many players from recognizing her and causing unnecessary trouble during her dungeon run. Sister Gui, are we the only two people here who know each other? Li Shanxi asked for confirmation. Jing Gui glanced around. Yes, there are no members of our guild. Sister Gui, let's go inside and take a look, Li Shanxi said. Jing Gui nodded and walked straight ahead, striding forward. Li Shanxi felt a sense of security following her. As soon as they entered the cabin, they heard the sounds of singing and dancing, and the melodious piano and violin playing. The door to the room was ajar, and cheerful voices emanated from within, and lights flickered. The players were all outside, so it was obvious what was causing the laughter inside. The creeps. Mo Feng pushed the door open a crack and saw many young men and women in suits and tuxedos dancing inside, with waiters carrying champagne. This was a banquet hall, and the creeps were impersonating tourists on the cruise ship, presumably upper-level guests. Mo Feng didn't rush in, as he wasn't sure if he was a resident of the upper or lower floors, and whether he could enter the venue. A waiter passed by the door, carrying a drink. Sir, could you please make way? Mo Feng calmly stepped aside, saying, I lost my room card. Where can I get a replacement? The front desk is on the 4th floor. Thank you. Mo Feng left the ballroom entrance. The laughter continued, with only a few murmurs of disdain. Humans smell really bad. I think they smell pretty good. Someone who's into weird things like that, the very smell of them makes me want to vomit. He has a scent about him that's familiar. Let's go play with him tonight, and ask where that scent comes from. Hee. Another human is here. The noise was so loud that it attracted over a dozen humans. Those who dared to approach the door were the bravest. The player observed the scene through the crack in the door. They're all NPCs, they haven't been transformed. It's just normal cruise ship life. There shouldn't be any danger right now, someone analyzed. Is it a bad idea for us to spy here? Should we go in? Wouldn't it be too dangerous to rush in? Remember the dungeon prompt about choosing the right faction? We definitely need to interact with the NPCs and integrate with them. That makes sense. But the player still hesitated, not daring to step in. Just then, one of the bravest warriors appeared, pushed the door open, and walked in. The waiter saw him and immediately approached, glancing at his attire. The player's hair stood on end, but he smiled and said, "It's a bit cold outside, and I'm not wearing a suit. Is that a problem? I go out first." "No problem, sir. What kind of drink would you like?" The waiter offered with a smile. The player breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Champagne would be fine." He took a glass of champagne and walked further into the banquet hall, safe and sound. The players at the door saw this, believing there was no danger, and followed him in. But once they entered, the scene was completely different. The faces of the dancing men and women fell, and the deceased all gathered around them. "Please show us your room cards," a staff member said. The players were stunned. The previous person hadn't followed this procedure. "I don't have a room card, The waiter said, "I remember them. They're staying below the 5th floor. Sorry, this place isn't open to guests below the 5th floor. You come to the wrong place. Then we leave right away." "Sorry." The player tried to run, only to turn and bump into a cold NPC. Sorry, we didn't know this wasn't allowed. Let's go right now." The door closed automatically, locked with a slam, and the cheerful singing in the banquet hall changed pitch, becoming a shrill, piercing sound. The surrounding lights flickered, red, black. The beautiful men and women in the crowd suddenly distorted, transforming into alien monsters that pounced on them and tore them apart. Being torn to pieces alive, the scene was incredibly bloody. The first player to enter witnessed this scene firsthand. Monsters surrounded him, but no one moved. Only after those players were killed did the surroundings return to normal. The male NPC, beaming, held his female companion's hand, dancing around the corpses. The sole surviving player lay motionless, pale. The waiter, his face still stained with blood, approached. "Sir, your champagne is dirty. Would you like a new glass?" The player looked and saw blood splattered in the champagne glass. A new glass. The players who hadn't yet entered heard the tragic scene and swallowed hard. "It's a good thing we didn't go in." "Room card. Find your room card." At the 4th floor reception desk, phone. "Hello, I lost my room card. Please give me a new one." A woman in work clothes stood at the reception desk with her back to the inside. Chapter 307. The woman's back was clearly to the counter, but she extended her hand forward. Her hands were backwards, accustomed to shocking scenes. Phone wasn't frightened. There was a computer nearby, supposedly used to input guest information, but the woman didn't touch it. Her dark back, thick with hair, casually fumbled for a room card on the table and slammed it on the counter. Very casual, poor service attitude. Random room card? Phone thought to himself, this is bad news. Phone took the card. Basement floor. Living on the bottom of a boat? No windows. Impoverished? Phone thought this was bad enough, but the woman extended another hand. It was a work ID. Phone, "I'm not a tourist, I'm a staff member." Staff member? Wouldn't that mean they have access to many places? The woman's throat was like a rope, her voice harsh. Volunteer travel, working in exchange for food and lodging. Phone instantly thought of his own identity. A young man without money, but with a heart full of poetry and distant places, and a hard-working spirit. He boarded the cruise ship with just a small backpack. If the cruise ship was sailing normally, it would be a fulfilling trip. But this was a dungeon, and the ship could get lost. He wasn't a tourist, nor was he a true staff member. He was the type of person most likely to be abandoned. Phone cursed inwardly, but outwardly remained calm, as stable as his buzz cut. Taking the work permit, she didn't forget to ask, "Is there anything I should be aware of? Like where I'm not allowed to enter or leave?" You must be polite to guests, especially those living on the 5th floor and above. When you meet guests above the 5th floor, you must nod and greet them, like, "Hello," the woman said as she turned around, and Phone realized she had no front view. The front view was also the back of her head. Her entire head was completely hairless. Phone understood. With his work ID, as long as he knew how to use his words, he could basically go anywhere. That was good news. Phone said a simple thank you and left. He planned to go to the basement to check out his accommodations. As a volunteer, he would definitely live in the staff dormitory. It would probably be bunk beds, sleeping for people. Besides, he didn't think there was another player who would be unlucky enough to be drawn into a similar situation, so he would probably be living with a few NPC employees. Mo Phone got into the elevator going downstairs. The doors had just closed when there was a ding, and the next elevator opened. Jing Gui and Li Shanxi came out and immediately saw the female employee at the counter, her head facing them. They stepped forward. Jing Gui stepped forward to negotiate. "Sorry, we lost our room card. Please give us a replacement." Li Shanxi curiously walked to the side counter and looked at the woman with her back to them. As she reached the side, she gasped. The woman had no front view, her hands and feet facing one direction, her breasts and butt facing another. How terrifying. The female employee casually fumbled with 2 room cards, picked them up, and suddenly laughed. She handed them over with both hands, saying gently, "Here you go." Jing Gui took it, and saw it was room 704. Li Shanxi also came over. The female employee fetched another room card. Suddenly, she bowed and handed it over with both hands. Despite the dark back of her head, she gave off a smile. She said pleasantly, "VIP, here you go." Li Shanxi looked, and saw it was room 904. The female employee's attitude was so obvious that Jing Gui and Li Shanxi immediately understood that this was a cruise ship with a serious class divide. The two left and entered the elevator, noticing that room cards were required to go above the 5th floor. "Shall we go to the room first?" Li Shanxi asked. Jing Gui swiped her card. "Okay, let me check the room first. I come down later to check the other players' room card numbers." Jing Gui got off the 7th floor, and Li Shanxi went to the 9th. As soon as she exited the elevator, she could feel the 9th floor's opulence. The carpet in the hallway was wool, with an intricate pattern, spotlessly clean and comfortable to walk on. It was warm here, not cold at all. Li Shanxi took off her coat, found her room, and entered. It was a luxurious suite with a large balcony, pitch black at night. The bathroom had a bathtub, a variety of skincare products, and the living room was stocked with wine, drinks, coffee, and various teas. Li Shanxi scanned the room and walked to the balcony, intending to survey her surroundings. As she reached the railing, she heard a sticky sound from above. Looking up, she saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman kissing. The man pressed the woman's waist against the railing, as if trying to push her off. The kissing was frantic. Li Shanxi didn't have time to hide, because the man kissed with his eyes open, and he saw her. Wula felt Taz's tongue pause. She sniffed it, smiled, and pushed Taz away, turning around to lean over the railing and look down. "Hi." Taz pressed up from behind, pressing tightly against her back, waist, and hips, like a sticky candy. He just loved being close to her. It seemed he really missed her. 2 stunning faces, one male, one female, both unfamiliar, made Li Shanxi's heart beat faster. Nervous? Awestruck? Both. "Hello, I'm the tenant downstairs. Sorry to bother you. You guys continue." "I go back to my room," Li Shanxi said confidently. Wula squinted her eyes and smiled. "Won't you look at me more? Don't you think I'm familiar? You don't even recognize me? Are you so unfamiliar with the boss?" Yes, Li Shanxi was her recent recruit. They weren't familiar with each other, but this was just a coincidence. Entering her dungeon, they became familiar. Wuli's mind raced through 18 different games she could play with Li Shanxi. Li Shanxi thought he was mocking her, so she immediately said, "I just happened to see it. It wasn't intentional. I didn't peek, and I didn't see anything. Really, I wouldn't go out and talk nonsense." "Pretty comprehensive, right? Wulu, don't you think I'm pretty? Does it look familiar?" The moment the dungeon opened, her appearance changed from Miss Mary, the puppeteer, to the character in this new dungeon. Li Shanxi couldn't help but glance at Wulu again and complimented, "Of course, you're very pretty. The most beautiful woman I ever seen." "Sh," Taz chuckled. Wulu, with a scowl, raised her butt and pushed Taz away from her, only for Taz to cheekily bump into her the next moment. In the darkness, Li Shanxi could only make out blurry movements, but she was certain the 2 people were wearing clothes. But just now, way was too open. Wula glared at Li Shanxi. "You're lying. You've seen many beautiful women, and they're all equally beautiful." As she said this, 2 faces flashed through Li Shanxi's mind. Both were beautiful, and of course, they were both Wulu. In a flash, Li Shanxi realized the 2 people upstairs had disappeared. Had they gone into the house? Li Shanxi hurried back inside, and closed the balcony door to prevent hearing any noise from upstairs. Second floor below ground, staff dormitory, bunk beds, sleeping 8, 7 Wei and 1 Mo phone. Mo phone, okay. Chapter 308. Wulu lay on the bed, looking depressed. Tawizi gently pressed her down and asked with a smile, a new subordinate. Well, she looked pretty pleasing to the eye, so I took her in. But she hasn't had much contact with me, so she doesn't recognize me now. Wouldn't it be more fun if she didn't recognize me? Tawizi sniffed her hair. Lalu, you smell so good. Wulu rolled over beneath him, and Tawizi lifted her body to accommodate him. Once she was on her side, he pressed down, pressing against her soft belly. Wulu stared at his beautiful face and said seductively, of course I smell good as a copy. It's my favorite scent. Tawizi leaned forward to kiss her, but Wulu tilted her head, and the kiss only reached her cheek. Wulu tilted her head and thought, yes, it's more fun when we don't know each other. She's in the open, and I'm in the dark. It's more fun. I'm weak. Remember to come back early to stay with me. I need you. Tawizi's voice trailed off, as if he was unwell. His frail appearance was truly pitiful. Wulu raised her arm, and put her arm around his neck. Tata, besides eating Xiaohei, there must be other conditions for me to go to Paradise Town, right? She had already guessed it. Tata used his own power to escort her out, maintaining the tunnel she exited through for 3 days. Yes, Taz didn't deny. The tunnel leading to the dungeon in Paradise Town is only accessible to humans. Creatures can't go there, but those with sufficient power can. This is a restriction on creatures. Paradise Town is humanity's last respite. Wulu speculated, if I convince other creatures to provide me with power, is it possible for me to reach places beyond Paradise Town? Are you talking about the human world? Taz's eyes darkened, his expression darkening slightly. Lele, have you ever considered that the human world might also be a vast prison, no different from here, or even less interesting? Wouldn't it be better for us to stay in the dungeon forever? Is that what you truly think? Wulu looked directly into his beautiful eyes and called out, Taz, do you want to keep me here? A dangerous aura flashed across his face. Taz lowered his gaze, a tenderness in his eyes, and whispered with a slight curl of his lips, it doesn't matter where we go, but you must be by my side. I follow you. I agree with the last part of your sentence. Wulu smiled, hooking her arm around his neck to lower his head. She bit his cheek, leaving a tooth mark. The next moment, Wulu was gone. The bed still lingered with her scent. Taz rolled over, clutching the blanket she had been holding onto, tightly covering his mouth and nose. He took a deep breath, trembling, his body slowly arching, an act of the most primal desire. Lele, Taz couldn't help but call out, panting. Wulu, unaware that someone was doing something awful in the room, was about to go downstairs to play with Xiao Wu. In the elevator, they ran into the girl in a red dress, her fragrance wafting through her nose as she entered. Mo Feng silently took a step back. Mo Feng offered, hello sir, which floor are you going to? Wulu sized him up, staff. Why aren't you wearing work clothes? Mo Feng lied without hesitation, my work clothes just got dirty, so I sent them for cleaning and drying. 9th floor, Wulu said coldly. Mo Feng pressed the elevator button. In reality, he wanted to try the 10th floor. Staff members could go anywhere, that status had its advantages. But as soon as he reached the 10th floor, he encountered this NPC. The elevator descended to the 9th floor, and Wulu left. Mo Feng watched her back for a few seconds before the elevator closed, and he continued to the 10th floor. The 10th floor was magnificent. Mo Feng wanted to see the rooms, but discovered there was only one room on this floor. One room was the entire cruise ship's floor. It was incredibly luxurious. Mo Feng then realized that the woman he had just seen was an important NPC. Mo Feng immediately went downstairs to the 9th floor, but the hallway was deserted. He wondered where she had gone. Never mind, he'd meet her again next time. Mo Feng went down to the 4th floor to see what identities other players had obtained. Word spread that someone had obtained a room card, and many players knew they had to go to the 4th floor to get their room card and learn their identities. Most players were guests below the 5th floor, with a few above. Mo Feng was the only one who had obtained a staff member's identity. The faceless female staff member at the front desk suddenly left. Mo Feng volunteered to cover the shift. He met with his supervisor on the 2nd floor below ground and learned that he didn't have a fixed work schedule. He would just cover wherever needed. Mo Feng opened his computer and quickly checked the entire guest information, starting with the top floor. There was only one resident on the top floor, a man whose name and other identifying information were kept confidential. Male? So what about that woman he just seen? Without time to think, Mo Feng hurriedly noted down the residents on the other floors. He spotted a familiar name on the 9th floor, Li Shanxi. Wu Li's new little sister, Lao Wu. What a coincidence. Mo Feng decided to keep an eye on Li Shanxi. The female staff member returned, and Mo Feng immediately stepped aside, saying, I was about to go to the 10th floor hallway for a cleanup, and saw a woman enter the elevator. She didn't appear to be a staff member, nor a resident on the 10th floor. How did she get up there? I'm worried she might disturb the VIPs on the 10th floor. Their privacy and safety are also a concern. Upon hearing this, the female staff member's voice raged. Who disturbed the gentleman? She checked the security footage on her computer, and the result was, Are you kidding me? You're the only one in the elevator, no women. Mo Feng leaned over to check the computer, but there really wasn't anything. What happened? He was certain he'd seen it. You're not needed to patrol the 10th floor. Don't go up there unless necessary. If you disturb a VIP, I throw you into the sea to feed the fish, she warned. Mo Feng left. There's not enough champagne in the elevator. Yes, you, the volunteer, right? Go to the warehouse and get some champagne, an NPC instructed Mo Feng. Okay. Mo Feng didn't know where the warehouse was, so he asked a few NPCs, and went all the way to the basement. It was cold and dark here, with no lights at all. Mo Feng could only walk inside with a flashlight. His boots made a crisp sound on the floor. The corridor was long and dark, and the silence was eerie. The corridor seemed endless. After more than 10 minutes of walking, there was still no end in sight. The darkness ahead was completely dark. This familiar feeling made Mo Feng know his death was imminent. He put away his flashlight and activated his night vision. The next second, the man was holding the blade in his hands, his long blade pressed against the back of his arm, making it difficult to see clearly. He strode forward. Suddenly, a sound came from above. Mo Feng quickly raised his hands, crossed his blades, and pressed them upward. Swish! Foul-smelling blood splattered across his face. An NPC in cleaning clothes crouched above him, his foot on his knife, halfway embedded in his foot. It smiled down at him, seemingly insensitive to the pain. The cleaning lady had only one eye, one nostril, and a wide mouth. Keloids covered the exposed skin on her face, neck, arms, and ankles. Just the sight of it gave me goosebumps. Mo Feng thrust his sword hard, sending him flying, and then he turned and ran. Ha 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 ha, delicious. Delicious. Smells delicious. The strange creature crawled after him, still raving about deliciousness like crazy. The corridor had been a long straight one when he came, but on his way back it suddenly became a maze. Mo Feng ran fast and ran straight into a dead end. Before the strange creature could block him, he quickly backed up and tried another way. Unfortunately, no matter which way he took, he ended up in a dead end. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't hide his bad luck, always ending up in a dead end. When he tried to back up again, he was blocked by the cleaning person. You can't get out? No one who comes in can get out. It lunged at him, and Mo Feng didn't dodge, but charged forward and slashed. He chopped the cleaning person's face in half, kicked it down, and continued running. In seconds, it stood up, even becoming two heads, its two mouths interlocking as they cried, "So hungry! So hungry! Oh no! If I cut off a hand, would it grow more? If I cut it in half, would it become two? This is so difficult." Mo Feng could only throw the teleportation tool, hoping to get upstairs. The next second, he opened his eyes, and was still in the hallway. Mo Feng wasn't disappointed. This was within his expectations. The surroundings were quiet, with no eerie sounds. This proved the teleportation range was still quite far. Although he hadn't left this floor, he was lucky. The monster was unkillable. The only way out was to find champagne. Could he really find it with this kind of luck? Mo Feng was prepared to be trapped here for 3 or 4 days. He didn't find champagne, but he did find a half-dead man and woman. At first, Mo Feng thought they were dead, but when he got closer, he noticed the couple's stomachs were still rising and falling slightly. There was no way to care for the seriously injured and unconscious people. Mo Feng turned to leave, but the man grabbed his trouser leg. The man said weakly, "Don't go. Are you human? Save us, we don't want to die." Chapter 309. This man also had night vision equipment. Mo Feng squatted down and carefully examined his injuries. The man understood what he meant and quickly explained, "I hit my head and passed out. I'm fine now that I'm awake. My friend is bleeding and unconscious, but she's not seriously injured. I can carry her." Mo Feng nodded. "Then you two go ahead. Li Mingjiao wasn't surprised by this request, nor did she object. Finding a companion was great. There's strength in numbers, and having more people can help spread the monster's attention, giving each person more space to survive. Li Mingjiao carried Qin Zhao on her back and walked ahead, while Mo Feng followed behind, keeping his ears alert for any nearby movements. They walked as quietly as possible, controlling their breathing and moving quickly forward. Li Mingjiao asked Mo Feng, "It's like a maze here, buddy. Do you know how to get out?" Mo Feng, "Follow your instinct." Li Mingjiao glanced back at him curiously and asked, "You don't know how to get out either?" Mo Feng was embarrassed for a second. "Yeah, let's go." Li Mingjiao felt a sudden blackout. It was all over. It was just one more person, and the other party was just as bad. Li Mingjiao felt dizzy, and carrying Qin Zhao on his back was becoming increasingly difficult. He didn't notice that Mo Feng's expression behind him was brightening, because they hadn't hit a dead end in 10 minutes. Sure enough, bringing these two people with him was helpful. They were luckier than him, so it was right to follow them. Suddenly, Mo Feng said, "Stop, be quiet." Li Mingjiao stopped, and silence fell all around him. "No." Mo Feng motioned for him to be quiet. Mo Feng walked ahead, listening for the direction of the strange sound, and then led Li Mingjiao in the opposite direction. After walking for 10 minutes or so, when they finally heard no more movement, Mo Feng said, "You continue to lead the way." Li Mingjiao, "What happened just now?" "That cleaning lady was just nearby." Li Mingjiao was surprised. "I didn't hear anything." "You have amazing hearing." Mo Feng said nothing. Not only did he have excellent hearing, but he also had 5.0 vision. Li Mingjiao was injured himself. After carrying the woman for an hour, he could no longer hold on. Li Mingjiao put Qin Zhao down and sat down to catch his breath. Mo Feng frowned and could only say, "I carry her." Li Mingjiao's eyes lit up. Thank you. What a kind man." In reality, Mo Feng could have easily abandoned them. Even if he needed someone to lead the way, he could have threatened Li Mingjiao to lead the way, without even caring about the unconscious woman. But he didn't. Now wasn't the most critical moment, and he still had the energy to do some good deeds. But if it were a life or death situation, no matter who it was, Mo Feng would choose life over death without hesitation. Now wasn't the time for that. He could do a little good to bring a little warmth to this desperate dungeon. And he needed Li Mingjiao to lead the way. As it turned out, the two of them were lucky. Following Li Mingjiao, Mo Feng found the champagne, and the maze-like corridors instantly became a path. Li Mingjiao exclaimed in surprise, "Exit." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a rustling sound behind him, followed by the cleaning lady's grinding teeth. "I found you three." Ha ha ha. Mo Feng had already run off, carrying Qin on his back, but he didn't forget to call out to Li Mingjiao, "Get the champagne." Li Mingjiao took a step out, braked suddenly, came back, bent down, picked up the champagne, and ran again. He was confused. "Why are you carrying this?" "Once the champagne is out of sight, this place will turn into a maze," Mo Feng replied as he fled. They were all carrying heavy objects, slowing down their pace. The cleaning staff caught up. Mo Feng could only drop the person to the ground and rush towards the cleaning staff, saying to Li Mingjiao, "Carry the person and the champagne, and wait for me at the elevator." Okay. Mo Feng stopped the cleaning staff. It had two faces, but each had only one eye, one nostril, and one mouth. Its body was covered in horrific scars, and it was grinding its teeth constantly. It was very excited. Mo Feng didn't dare to cut it, fearing it would sprout more limbs. He could only whip it with a prop whip and keep it away. It was no use. This creature had no fear of pain. The more he whipped it, the more excited it became. It kept grinding its teeth in defiance. The tip of the whip was caught, and it pulled. Mo Feng lunged forward, almost coming face to face with it. The cleaning staff raised a claw and grabbed Mo Feng's chest, tearing his jacket apart, sending cotton wool flying and blood splattering. Even through the thick clothing, the tip of her nails still tore a strip of his flesh. Mo Feng felt a sharp hiss of pain, and quickly swapped his props for ropes to tie it up at close range. Continuously scratched, Mo Feng focused on protecting his vitals and his face. Nothing else mattered. He hung the rope on the nearby doorknob, tied a knot, then grabbed the cleaning woman's shoulder, flipped over it, and ran away. The cleaning woman tried to chase him, but was caught in the rope and had to go back to bite and claw at it. The prop ropes were not easily broken, so they could hold out for a while. Mo Feng's clothes were tattered, covered in wounds, and blood dripped onto the ground. Rushing to the elevator door, he saw Li Mingjiao carrying someone on his back, the bottle of champagne at his feet pressed against the elevator door. Mo Feng breathed a sigh of relief. This guy didn't run off alone, good thing. Mo Feng kicked the champagne into the elevator, squeezed himself in, quickly closed the door, and swiped his employee card to go upstairs. Li Mingjia saw the employee card and asked curiously, "Where did you get this?" "I go get one too." Mo Feng leaned against the wall, panting, and ignored them. Li Mingjia asked, "Are you okay? Are you seriously injured?" Mo Feng shook his head. "Li Mingjia, how did you get that card?" Mo Feng looked up at him. "Why are you here?" "The players are mostly on the 4th floor, and it seems these two have been here for quite some time. We were driven here by monsters. We've been trapped here for a day." "A day?" Mo Feng looked skeptical. Li Mingjia sensed something was amiss with him. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" "We've been trapped for a whole day. My watch has been ticking 12 hours. Many monsters have been chasing us, and all my friends are dead. We've been driven to this floor." "Are you saying you experienced a battle royale?" "Yes." Mo Feng, baffled, said bluntly, "But a large number of players have only just arrived in this dungeon an hour, and the dungeon has only been open an hour. You say you experienced a battle royale, and were trapped for a whole day? That's completely unreasonable." Li Mingjia was stunned, his mind blank for a moment. "I'm not lying. I have no reason to lie." "Yes." Mo Feng believed he wasn't lying. This dungeon was strange. Usually, players enter at the same time. Why are there two separate groups entering this time? Chapter 310. "Brother, what's your name? How about we team up?" Although Mo Feng's body was ragged and tattered, Li Mingjia knew at a glance that these were superficial injuries. To be able to escape a terrifying NPC on his own meant he was quite capable, and such a person was suitable for an alliance. Li Mingjia also had several wounds beneath his clothes. He had a large bump on the back of his head, and was unconscious for a while. His companion, Qin Zhao, was seriously injured and bleeding. Before he passed out, Qin Zhao said, "Don't waste your points buying me medicine. Maybe it's fate. I live as long as I can. I hope you can live." Qin Zhao wanted to give up, because she saw no hope. Now that they were out, Li Mingjia's first action was to buy treatment for Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao sat against the wall, his complexion slowly brightening. "No teaming, I prefer being alone." Mo Feng declined and left with the champagne. Mo Feng first returned to the dormitory to change into a dark blue work suit and apply medicine to his wounds. On his way out, he encountered two NPC roommates, both wearing blue work clothes. They stared at Mo Feng like he was prey, ready to pounce and bite him at any moment. Mo Feng strode out, carrying the champagne to the banquet hall. The place was filled with NPCs, not a single player. Mo Feng knocked on the door, and the waiter at the door said, "Carry it in." A timid person would have trembled with fear at this moment. Mo Feng, expressionless, walked in with the champagne, put it down, and then walked out, smoothly. Mo Feng left the banquet hall and wandered around, searching for information. Actually, this identity had its advantages. For example, he could basically go anywhere. The disadvantage was that NPCs were always looking for him to do work, and those jobs were a bit dangerous. If anyone else had this identity, they would have died several times. After several hours, Mo Feng was exhausted, covered in wounds of varying sizes. Luckily, he had plenty of points, so he bought medicine without blinking an eye. Time went back a few hours. 9th floor. Li Shanxi had planned to go out and find Jing Gui, forming a temporary alliance. But before she could leave, she heard a knock on the door. Li Shanxi peered through the peephole. No one was there. But the knocking continued. In situations like this, it's usually best not to open the door. Li Shanxi waited quietly for the person at the door to leave, but the knocking stopped, and the next second, the door lock automatically turned. Li Shanxi quickly pushed the door open, but the opponent's strength was too great. A cold, white hand reached in and grabbed her neck. Li Shanxi suddenly felt breathless, pain, and exhaustion. The girl in the red dress squeezed in, her fragrance overwhelming and dizzying. Li Shanxi saw her face clearly. It was the woman from upstairs. She struggled to say, "I didn't see anything. I won't say anything. Don't kill me." Wu Lu, Xiao Wu's mind was solely focused on not killing her, and he didn't even think about who he was. He was still too unfamiliar. Suddenly, he missed Su Qinyang. But even strangers had their own ways. Just now in the elevator, for example, that idiot Mo Feng didn't recognize him. Okay, since they don't know each other, then don't blame her for playing tricks on them. Wu Lu lifted Li Shanxi and flung her out. Li Shanxi's back slammed against the coffee table, shattering the glass, shards piercing her flesh, causing her face to turn pale with pain. Li Shanxi quickly rolled to her feet. Instead of facing her opponent, she turned and ran to the balcony, grabbed the handrail, and leaped downstairs. As soon as her feet touched the ground, she felt a sharp pain in her back from the jump. Li Shanxi took a breath, but before she could exhale, a pale and beautiful face suddenly appeared in front of her. The fragrance filled her nostrils. They were only a centimeter apart, and she could kiss the other person if she moved closer. Li Shanxi fell back, her injured back hitting the railing, causing her to groan in pain. There was no way to escape. The other party would dodge. Li Shanxi quickly threw her props, but Wula didn't give her a chance. Countless tentacles flew out from behind, tightly wrapping around Li Shanxi. Li Shanxi despaired. "I'd rather die knowingly. Just because I saw you kissing your boyfriend? I'm so unlucky." Wula smiled brightly. "He's not my boyfriend, he's my husband." Li Shanxi, You saw me with him. I'm going to gouge out your eyes. Is there something so shameful about you that you have to gouge out your eyes just because you saw it? Li Shanxi was terrified, but she still tried to follow through. Wula didn't waste any time. Long nails grew on his hands and dug into Li Shanxi's eyes. Li Shanxi froze in fear. It was over. Suddenly, an iron rod came crashing down from behind Wula, and Wula instantly vanished. Li Shanxi spotted Jing Gui, who pounced on her and carried her to the balcony below. They continued down the stairs until they reached the 4th floor, where they rushed to the front desk. Li Shanxi was so frightened she almost lost her mind. She truly thought her eyes were about to be gouged out. "Yes. Sister Gui, thank you." Li Shanxi turned back in fear. Jing Gui chuckled. "I didn't catch up." She simply disappeared. Li Shanxi found a chair and sat down. Just then, the female staff member from the front desk approached. "Vice President, are you injured? I take you to the infirmary." "No, I can handle it myself." "I wasn't going to the infirmary." What if the doctor in the infirmary, a NPC, transformed and attacked someone? The staff member didn't force her, simply saying, "Vice President, you need some medicine. I have it delivered to your room shortly." With that, she left. Li Shanxi didn't dare return to her room for the time being. She even asked Sister Gui, "Can I stay with you tonight?" Jing Gui, seeing her in such a state of disarray, guided her. "I heard a loud noise. We're both in room 04, 2 floors apart, but I knew it was coming from your room. You're in danger." Li Shanxi thanked her. "Thank you for coming up to help me. I didn't climb up from the balcony, but took the elevator because I assumed you were trapped in the room. I came in from the doorway, right behind the strange creature, and could sneak up on her." Jing Gui paused, then continued, "I heard it right at the doorway. She wanted to gouge out your eyes because you saw her, so she wanted to gouge them out." "Your eyes? This is necessary to fulfill the conditions. She's very powerful. If I use all my strength, I won't be able to save you. Even if I do, you'll be blind. Even at this point, don't you understand?" Li Shanxi's mind raced, and he said in disbelief, "She didn't want to gouge my eyes out at all. She was just trying to scare me." Jing Gui, "I guess so. It suddenly makes sense. If she was going to gouge my eyes out, she could have done it the moment she walked in and strangled me. There's no need to drag it out. You were already at the door. She must have heard you coming. Why would she delay and gouge my eyes out? From the beginning, it wasn't her intention. It was just a prank. Such a weird, wicked thing." Jing Gui, "Tell me what you saw." Li Shanxi immediately told her what he saw. It was just these two people being weirdly intimate. Nothing special, except that they were both very good-looking. Jing Gui, "Come on, I go back to the 9th floor with you, but you can't stay in my room tonight. I guess everyone has to go back to their own quarters, and can't sleep in other people's rooms." Li Shanxi understood. She had just been terrified. Gouging out her eyeballs was terrifying. Jing Gui followed Li Shanxi to the 9th floor. Returning to her room, she saw a cleaning lady cleaning up broken glass from the coffee table. The cleaning lady had only one eye, one nostril, and one mouth, looking quite eerie. This type of unusual appearance requires constant caution, as they could kill at any moment. Those that resemble normal humans more often than not tend to kill suddenly. They only start a massacre when players break the rules. "Hello," the cleaning lady nodded and greeted the two. Jing Gui and Li Shanxi nodded and smiled in response. The two went to their rooms, while the cleaning lady cleaned the living room. Jing Gui walked to the balcony and looked up. No one was there. The cleaning lady finished cleaning and left. Li Shanxi said, "Are we just going to stay here? Or should we go out and check on the situation?" Jing Gui wanted to start with the girl in the red dress. She was a resident on the top floor, after all. This dungeon was a survival mission. The cruise ship is swerving, and chaos is imminent as time passes. Get acquainted with the upper-level residents and choose the right alliance, and you survive longer. Jing Gui waited a moment, but there was no movement in the room. She didn't want to waste time. I'm going out to explore. Feel free to do whatever you want. Meet at the restaurant for dinner and talk. The two of them had formed a temporary alliance. They were both members of the same guild, with one leader and one subordinate, but it was clear they didn't know each other well, and each had their own pace. Jing Gui began by exploring the terrain and observing the NPCs, while Li Shanxi preferred to start with the identities he acquired as a player. Li Shanxi wandered around, encountering many players and corpses. Large-scale dungeons, with hundreds of players, often die quickly. But there was one corpse, a mangled one, already severely stained with lividity. Li Shanxi, wearing a glove, touched the severed limb, feeling the stiffness and observing the lividity. That's not right. This person has been dead for at least a day. Is he a player? The players have only been here for less than half a day, so how could someone who has been dead for a day be dead again? Could there be corpses among the NPCs? Li Shan was confused when he heard footsteps behind him, steady and powerful. It was a man. Chapter 311. Li Shanxi turned and threw a punch, but a large hand wrapped around her fist, dissipating the force. A tall, shaved man with a tough, handsome face, but a blank expression, looking very serious, appeared. Mo Feng shook her hand off and said, "Hello, VIP. The front desk asked me to bring you some medicine. You're the VIP of room 904, right? Staff member?" Li Shanxi, after a closer look, could tell that this person was human, not an NPC. I looked around and saw that most players were using guest status. You're the first person I encountered using staff status, Li Shanxi said with a smile. Mo Feng handed the medicine over. Here. Li Shanxi took the ointment and examined it. Mo Feng saw her examining it intently. Out of friendship for Lele, who had also been recruited as his subordinate, he reminded her, "It's best to redeem the ointment yourself. Don't use the ones from the dungeon." "I know, but some of them work. I use the skincare products in the room, and they're pretty good," Li Shanxi explained. Mo Feng stopped talking and walked away. He had no intention of reuniting with Li Shanxi. He simply wanted to be a lone ranger. When he was on special operations, his codename was Lone Wolf. He mostly preferred being alone, occasionally missing teamwork, but the brothers who had followed him into the dungeon were all dead. Mo Feng suddenly remembered this, and then the faces of Wu Le, Su Chenyang, and Pei Lin flashed through his mind. Wu Le, in particular, had several faces, and she looked different each time. Why would I miss them? Mo Feng thought to himself, then walked away with a cold expression. Li Shanxi had discovered clues to the body, but didn't share the clue with the player. Instead, he went back to Jing Gui to tell her. In the darkness, the girl in the red dress was either stalking Li Shanxi or Mo Feng. Half a day passed, and Wu Le witnessed his younger siblings meet, expecting a heartwarming reunion. After all, Mo Feng had learned the name of the occupant of room 904, Li Shanxi, from the front desk. The night Wu Le left Paradise Town, he had specifically told the three idiots that Lao Wu's name was Li Shanxi, hoping they would go find Lao Wu. The result? Li Shanxi's inability to recognize Mo Feng proved that Mo Feng hadn't sought out Li Shanxi in Paradise Town. This kid, Mo Feng, must have gone off to a dungeon the moment his boss left. He saw Li Shanxi's name, even saw him in person, but he didn't acknowledge him. What a cool guy. Mo Feng must be taught a lesson. Meow. Little Black called sweetly, his tail curled around Wu Li's snow-white legs. Wu Li lowered her head and reached out to push down the hem of her skirt. "I'm wearing a skirt. Little Tomcat, you're not allowed to stand under my legs." Meow. "You used to wear a skirt, and I stood at your feet. It was okay before, why not now? I have a boyfriend now. Taz will be upset, and if he's upset, he eats you. He doesn't like to eat me. You're the only one who's eaten me. Xiao Hei, you should just meow. Your meow is really nice, like the clipping sound humans make. But when you speak, you sound like an old man with phlegm stuck in his throat. It's just ugly." The tip of the little black cat's tail stiffened. Wu Le moved her legs out of the way, adjusting her skirt as she walked, saying, "Why can't you transform into a human? The creeps can do that, but why can't the supervisor even do this?" Meow meow meow. Xiao Hei's meaningless meows were a way of avoiding the question. "You can't transform into a human, or are you too ugly to be one? You're not really an old man, are you?" Wu Li's words were so irritating that for the first time, Blackie refused to follow her, and turned and ran away. After sending Blackie away, Wu Lu immediately climbed onto the roof to chase Mo Feng. Fo Feng, your highlight is about to arrive. It wasn't that cold inside the cabin, and it got warmer as you went up higher, but on the 5th floor, Mo Feng felt a bone-chilling chill. Mo Feng couldn't help but pull out his jacket and put it on, rubbing his stiff hands. He was going to deliver drinks to the guests in 501. Mo Feng, holding a cooler box filled with iced drinks, walked to the door of 501 and knocked. "Hello, VIP, your drinks are here." As soon as he finished speaking, the door opened automatically, revealing pitch darkness inside and a pleasant aroma. Chapter 312. As soon as he smelled the fragrance, Mo Feng's mind flashed to the girl in the red dress. She had appeared on the 10th floor before, but the surveillance footage couldn't show her. Now she's on the 5th floor again. The occupant of 501 was clearly an elderly woman. Was it the elderly woman or the girl in the red dress? Most people, upon realizing the information was wrong, would run, fearing danger. But Mo Feng always believed that wealth and honor are achieved through risk, and he always did just that. Faced with the crack of the automatically open door, the pitch-black interior, and the strange aroma, Mo Feng entered without hesitation. Mo Feng, knife in one hand and drink in the other, said, "Hello, I'm here to deliver a drink." "Is the VIP in the room?" There was no sound. The fragrance was strong. She was there. Mo Feng sniffed carefully, trying to determine where it was strongest. He had a keen nose, and upon closer inspection, he could even detect a fishy odor, the smell of the sea. The balcony door was open, letting in the sea breeze. It wasn't surprising to hear such a smell. The bathroom smells the best. Mo Feng stood at the bathroom door. "Hello, is anyone in there?" He constantly said hello, fearing he'd run into a guest without greeting them, and violate the death rule. The bathroom light suddenly flickered on, and there was the throbbing sound of water, but the splashing sound was more jarring, like someone falling into the tub and drowning. "Madam? Are you in there?" Mo Feng remembered that the resident of room 501 was an elderly white woman, traveling alone. She was in her 60s, and had difficulty walking. As a staff member, he should have shown concern for the resident. But he suspected it wasn't the old lady. Suddenly, an old voice rang out from inside, still speaking English. "I fell. Come in and help me." The door's locked. Mo Feng's spoken English was passable. Come in quickly." "I fell, my leg hurts," the old woman urged, her voice growing hoarser. One could even hear the sounds of deformed bones creaking and twisting. Mo Feng switched to an axe. It was easy to use, and had high critical damage. Mo Feng swung the axe open, revealing an elderly white woman sitting on the floor beside the bathtub. Her face, a terrifying cat-like shape, looked up, her skin covered in age spots, her limbs twisted. Seeing Mo Feng, she excitedly said, "Come and help me. Come and help me." Mo Feng held the axe in one hand and reached out with the other. "Hold my hand." The old woman smiled sinisterly, her black-nailed hand grasping Mo Feng's arm. The next second, she suddenly sprang forward. Mo Feng dodged with a backswing and, with a backhand, swung the axe at her head. An axe struck her head, separating it from her body. The cat's face continued to cry out, its body twitching on the ground. Mo Feng approached the bathroom to observe, especially the mirror, expecting a ghostly face or a red dress to appear. After several seconds of watching, nothing happened. He reached out and gently tapped the mirror with his finger. A crisp sound, nothing unusual. Plop. Suddenly, a crisp bubbling sound echoed in the bathtub. Mo Feng turned to look at the enormous tub. The water was murky, seemingly unclean, but there was no odor. The room was filled with fragrance, and Mo Feng felt a little sick and dizzy. Mo Feng reached out and dipped his fingertips in the tub water, bringing it to his nose and sniffing. It tasted fishy and salty. Sea water? You could lick it just to be safe, but it was too murky and unclean. Ordinary people would probably dislike it. Mo Feng, he chewed on furry mice and eaten rotten things. What was the point of trying this water? Mo Feng licked his fingertips. It's seawater. Suddenly, another bubble appeared in the corner of the bathtub, and Mo Feng chopped it down with his axe without hesitation. A slimy black tail suddenly slapped up with such force that it knocked his axe away, then smacked him in the face, sending Mo Feng flying and slamming into the wall. His back ached, and his nose hurt so much that tears welled up, blood streamed down his face, and his face was covered in sticky liquid. The tail retracted into the bathtub. Siren? Mermaid? Who are you? Mo Feng immediately swapped his swords and approached. A pleasant voice rang from the water. Guess who I am? Chapter 313. How can I guess? There's no clue. Have we met before? Mo Feng asked, hoping to gain a little more confidence. Of course. When? Mo Feng took a step forward, raised his hand to wipe the blood from his nose. His nose ached, as if it were about to break. Think for yourself. Wu Lu lay underwater, blowing bubbles comfortably. Let Mo Feng rest for a minute. And then? We met in the elevator. You were wearing a red dress. Are you a mermaid? Mo Feng approached the bathtub, trying to see what the person inside looked like. Mo Feng instinctively knew the other person didn't seem to have any intention of killing him. The water was quiet, save for a stream of bubbles rising continuously. Mo Feng tried to move closer. Did you confuse this cruise ship and make it lost at sea? What do you want to do? Do you need help? I can help you. Mo Feng kept moving closer, trying to get more information. Mo Feng's tone was truly dull, a pure straight man, devoid of any emotion. If Pei Lin had said this, it would probably have been deeply affectionate, making one feel he was a good person, trustworthy. Mo Feng, however, was expressionless and spoke sternly, sounding very defensive and not to be trifled with. If Su Qinyang had said this, he would probably have been very kind, acting like a kind-hearted person, putting people off their guard. Wu Lu slowly emerged from the water, her whole body gray and white, her glasses red, her wet black hair plastered to her body. She was naked, but her vital areas were covered in scales. Mo Feng was about to turn his head away, but seeing the scales were not exposed, he held his ground. She looked like a water ghost, a siren, but also, because of her beauty, a mermaid. Mo Feng could clearly see the tail thrashing beneath the water, a large, dark, and unattractive sight. Are you a mermaid? Mo Feng asked. Wu Li's smile widened, his mouth opening wide, taking up half his face. From his throat, a demonic whisper rasped, Piranha. Oh no! This NPC is so unpredictable. Mo Feng quickly threw his props and ran. His speed wasn't enough at this point. He had to throw his props. Mo Feng quickly flashed down the hallway and ran towards the elevator, but before he could press the button, his foot stepped on a puddle. The hallway was flooded. In a matter of seconds, the water was up to Mo Feng's waist. The elevator button kept flashing red, and it didn't open. Mo Feng knew he couldn't stay in the closed hallway. It would be tantamount to waiting for death. He ran for the emergency exit. Running in water was too much resistance, so Mo Feng simply dove in and swam faster. But could a human outshine a fish's tail? The answer was no. As Mo Feng entered the water, a cold claw gripped his neck. The fish's tail instantly wrapped around his legs, and a hand continued to pummel his abdomen. In the murky, fishy water, Mo Feng could only vaguely make out her red eyes, a flash of pale face. Mo Feng stabbed repeatedly with his knife, but found nothing but water. But the restraints were real. The pain in his abdomen and the suffocation in his neck grew stronger and stronger. Mo Feng had no power to fight back. He was completely bound and beaten. Life and death are a matter of life and death. If you want to kill or cut me up, do it quickly. Mo Feng thought to himself. Mo Feng could no longer hold his breath. Another punch to the abdomen forced him to open his mouth. Ah, cough, cough. Seawater poured into his mouth, choking him and making him cough. The water had risen to the ceiling, leaving him no room to breathe. He suffocated, exhausted, and finally sank to the bottom. Wu Lu enjoyed the beating. Feng Feng was incredibly durable, and if he hadn't been in the water, he could have held out even longer. The water slowly receded, and Wu Lu swung his tail and leapt. Left behind was Mo Feng, wounded and unconscious, lying on the hallway carpet. The water stains on his body, and the soaked carpet dried at a visible pace. Mo Feng wasn't unconscious for long. He woke up within minutes. He wasn't surprised to find himself all right. The other party had no intention of killing him. They were just torturing him. Mo Feng touched the pinch marks on his neck, his expression growing darker. He slowly stood up, holding onto the wall. Ding. The elevator door opened. Jing Gui and Li Shanxi emerged, immediately catching sight of the disheveled Mo Feng. Li Shanxi stepped forward. We were just trapped in the elevator and couldn't get out of the 5th floor. What happened here? What did you see? Mo Feng was willing to share a clue with her. There's a siren, a mermaid. She must be involved in the cruise ship's loss of direction. Mermaid, this clue is crucial. Mr. Mo Feng? Jing Gui asked politely. Mo Feng's expression changed slightly, and he glanced at Jing Gui with a frown. Li Shanxi was stunned, staring at the man in front of her in surprise. She introduced herself. My name is Li Shanxi. Her expression hinted slightly, hoping to get a clear signal with him. Mo Feng, yeah. Unexpectedly, he was exposed here. Who are you? In fact, he knew who this short-haired woman was. Pei Lin had shown him profile photos of the top leaders of major guilds. Jing Gui, nice to meet you. Jing Gui didn't hide anything, extending her hand generously in a friendly gesture. Mo Feng shook her hand, then quickly released it, turning to Li Shanxi. Hello. Li Shanxi immediately shook his hand. Hello, hello. Guild President Jing Gui was still there, so Li Shanxi couldn't whisper to Mo Feng, but she believed he understood. Of course Mo Feng understood, but he didn't want to team up. Jing Gui carefully observed their actions, but didn't see any clues. They were both calm. Lulu was very close to Red Pei Lin. Mo Feng and the man named Su Qinyang were staying at Pei Lin's villa, so Mo Feng must have known Lulu. When Lulu left the Jing Gui guild, the last person she saw was Li Shanxi. She had been following him that night, so Li Shanxi and Lulu were also connected. Jing Gui pieced these connections together, hoping to gain more information. In just one day, quite a few players have already died. Death triggers are everywhere, and the clues are fragmented. It's difficult for one person to fight alone. Why don't we form an alliance? Jing Gui invited. Mo Feng, forget about the alliance, but we can share leads. He was sharing this primarily with Li Shanxi. After all, she was Leilei's new little sister, and she couldn't let him die here. Even after being rejected for an alliance, Jing Gui wasn't disappointed. Jing Gui generously shared her lead. Actually, this is a private cruise ship, the private property of a wealthy man, who suddenly opened it up to tourists for a global ocean tour. All the tourists who boarded paid their way, and the workers were hired normally. There's nothing strange about it. Is the wealthy man on the cruise ship? Mo Feng asked. Jing Gui, yes, he's the guest on the 10th floor. As expected. Mo Feng wasn't surprised. The 10th floor guest's name isn't in the computer. We only know he's a male, and we don't know his age. Jing Gui said, it's strange why a wealthy man would use his own private cruise ship to accommodate individual travelers. Li Shanxi, furthermore, the hierarchy here is very strict. The staff have completely different faces when dealing with residents of different social classes. All the staff are trained to do this. Jing Gui, it makes you wonder if this is a game played by the wealthy, deliberately gathering people from different social classes, and then having the staff treat them differently. This has become a miniature society, like an ecological observation tank. Mo Feng scoffed at this. That's really boring and perverted. Li Shanxi, if this were a game for the rich, it would have been updated quickly, like informing everyone that the cruise ship had veered off course and was lost. Jing Gui folded her arms and said, then let's wait a while. Mo Feng questioned, what does that have to do with the mermaid I met? Jing Gui shook her head. They say the clues are too complicated, with everything, and now it's impossible to make sense of a single thread. The dungeon asked us to choose a faction, but we don't even know what faction it is. The three of them entered the elevator. Jing Gui said, I'm going to check out the restaurant and grab a bite to eat. What about you guys? Li Shanxi took the opportunity to split up and said, there are many restaurants here. Sister Gui, you go to the Chinese restaurant, and I go to the Western restaurant. Okay. Jing Gui pressed the floor button and left alone. Leaving Li Shanxi and Mo Feng behind, Jing Gui glanced at them both as she left. The elevator was empty, so Li Shanxi pressed the 9th floor button. Come to my room and talk? Mo Feng, sure. The luxurious presidential suite had a king-size bed, a bathtub, a bottle of wine, a living room, a balcony, and a full range of skincare products. Mo Feng's eyes darted for a second, but he chose not to look away, and sat down on the living room sofa. Li Shanxi was a bit agitated, but she managed to remain calm. She coughed and said, Lila said she'd protect me from now on. I'm the 5th child, and you're the 4th, right? Yes. She's a bit quirky. I don't know why she suddenly took me in, but I know that following her might lead to a different outcome, maybe even a chance to return home, so I'd be loyal to her. Mo Feng knew immediately that Li Shanxi didn't understand Wu Le, but Wu Le had taken a liking to her. Li Shanxi was lucky, wasn't she? Mo Feng didn't answer, his expression a bit like, I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. Li Shanxi coughed awkwardly again and said, I saw the wealthy man upstairs. He's very young, very handsome, even beautiful. He has a wife in a red dress, who smells very nice. I saw them kissing on the balcony, but after I saw that, his wife got angry and rushed down to scare me. Tentacles sprouted from her back. Mo Feng's expression changed. He suddenly stood up and walked forward. You said that man was beautiful? His wife was wearing a red dress, smelled very nice, and had tentacles. Are you sure you saw tentacles, not a fishtail? What color were the tentacles? Was the man so beautiful that he was indistinguishable from his male or female? Especially his eyebrows and eyes. The other party was so excited that Li Shanxi was a little dazed. Yes. Not a fishtail, but tentacles, like an octopus, but without the suckers, and black and red. Mo Feng hadn't seen Wu Li's full form, but he had seen her tentacles. To be on the safe side, Mo Feng only said that girl in red could be Lulu. Huh? Chapter 314. If the girl in red was Lei, then many details could be explained. For example, why were there two groups of players entering the dungeon, and why had some people already entered the dungeon a day earlier? Because it was Lei who brought the traders from the Black and Red Guild in. Mo Feng instantly regretted that he had been so careless at the circular altar in Paradise Town that he hadn't memorized those faces. If he had, he would have known Lei was in this dungeon the moment he met Li Mingjia, and he could have avoided a beating. To be on the safe side, Mo Feng had Li Shanxi recount everything she had seen and experienced in detail. After listening, Mo Feng was absolutely certain. It was Lei. She was angry because we didn't recognize her, so she's punishing us. Mo Feng was now completely certain. Li Shanxi gradually understood. No wonder she threatened to gouge my eyes out to scare me, but she didn't actually kill me. Mo Feng, she's very partial to us. She won't kill us in the early stages, but she torment us. Not in the early stages? Li Shanxi grasped the key point. Mo Feng warned, you don't think being her subordinate gives you a golden ticket to immortality, do you? She loves hunting down her subordinates. Li Shanxi, Mo Feng, I haven't seen her true form, but I have seen her tentacles. They're black and red, with some red tentacles, and some transparent tentacles that can control others. Li Shanxi quickly took note. Mo Feng, in this instance, she's probably a mermaid. She smells so good, probably to mask the fishy smell. The surveillance cameras can't pick her up, so she might not be alive. Li Shanxi, even if the surveillance cameras can't pick her up, the water will suddenly rise, dragging people into a nightmare. Is she dead? Mo Feng, it's very likely the man upstairs is Taz. Taz? Li Shanxi had no idea who he was. Mo Feng had to explain himself, and the cold man suddenly became a chatty one. He was very considerate of Li Shanxi. Li Shanxi understood and was curious. When Lei boss mentioned husband, did they already have a husband and wife relationship, or were they husband and wife in this instance? Mo Feng didn't know. I just know Lei used to call Taz little pretty girl and boyfriend, never husband. Did this instance make them love him even more, elevating Taz's status? Let's go to the restaurant. Mo Feng turned to leave. Li Shanxi stopped him. President Jing Gui has her eyes on us. To be more precise, she's trying to get close to Lei. Mo Feng also saw this. Well, as long as she doesn't harm Lei or expose her, we don't need to take any action. Okay. Li Shanxi understood. The two were about to go to the restaurant, but as soon as they entered the elevator, it went out of control and went straight up the stairs. What's going on? Li Shanxi tensed. Mo Feng remained silent. With a ding, the elevator reached the 10th floor and opened. Looking at the luxuriously decorated hallway, they both remained silent for a few seconds. Mo Feng left the elevator first, followed by Li Shanxi. Mo Feng reached the door and politely rang the bell. Li Shanxi asked, is it Lei who wants to see us? Yes. It was obvious. After a few rings, someone opened the door. It was Taz, dressed in a bathrobe. After opening the door, he turned and walked inside, ignoring the two of them. Taz's long black hair was damp. He wore a white bathrobe and was barefoot. His tall, slender figure was a beautiful sight from behind. Mo Feng glanced at him and followed. Li Shanxi's hands were shaking. She was actually quite excited to see Wu Lu in the dungeon. On the sofa, Wu Lu was also wearing a bathrobe, her long black hair sticking wetly down her back. She was sipping a cup of hot cocoa. Towizi walked up behind her naturally, and gently wiped her hair with a towel. Wu Lu looked at him as if he were a stranger. What's up? Mo Feng felt a little awkward, boss. Li Shanxi replied, Boss Lei. Wu Lu rolled her eyes, two idiots. Towizi stood behind the sofa as Wu Lu wiped her hair. He looked at the two of them with disdain, wishing they would leave immediately for disturbing his private time. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't recognize me. Wu Lu put down his teacup and said, help me do something. Feng, Go and destroy the cold storage fan so that all the food inside rots and stinks. Xiuxi, go and kill the captain and throw his body into the sea. Leave the mess to them? Mo Feng and Li Shanxi were both a little surprised. They exchanged glances before nodding to Wu Lu, understood. Xiao Si and Xiao Wu were so obedient that Wu Lu smiled. Halfway through his hair, Towizi finally spoke, asking, "Would you like a cup of hot cocoa? It's sweet, Lei loves it." A polite host would have poured them a cup of hot cocoa upon their arrival, instead of asking suddenly, a clear way to shoo them away. "No, thank you. We're going to the restaurant for dinner," Li Shanxi said with a smile. Mo Feng left, and Li Shanxi followed. The door closed, and Wu Lu pulled Towizi to sit down. "Let me wipe you down too. Let me change the towel. It already smells fishy." "It's not fishy, you smell really good." Towizi sat on the sofa, and pulled Wu Lu directly onto his lap, making them feel incredibly clingy. Wu Lu spread her legs, knelt on either side of him, and gently wiped his hair with a towel. "You have a lot of work ahead of you. How are you recovering?" "I'm fine now." Towizi's strength was gradually returning, and with a strange, volatile energy, he was preoccupied with plotting the dungeon storyline and figuring out how to have the most fun. This cruise ship was destined to be a one-way trip. "That stinky cat always clings to you," Towizi said unhappily. "Wu Lu, it can't be helped. It already liked me, and now that I'd become a fish, it likes me even more." Lulu might be slow-witted, but she knew what Xiao He was thinking. Towizi felt a pang of frustration, and he suddenly wished Lulu was a little slow-witted. "It won't come near me when I'm around. I'm going to stay with you, and won't give it a chance." Towizi hugged Wu Li's waist, buried his head in her chest, and enjoyed the comfortable friction against his head. "It's quite powerful, but it seems afraid of you. Because it can't hurt me. I'm its nemesis." "The nemesis of the supervisor? Tata, you're so special. What secrets do you have that I don't know?" Wu Lu was curious. But at such times, Towizi would play dumb, saying nothing. She would pull his face, pluck his eyelashes, and even hit him in the groin, but he wouldn't say a word, only staring at her with his beautiful, misty eyes. "I really can't do anything about you, Tata. Anyway, I won't hurt you. I just want to be with you forever." Wu Li's demands were modest. "Tata, just don't lie to me. I hate it." Towizi's eyelashes trembled slightly, and he looked so pitiful, as if he'd been bullied. Wu Lu was so envious that she kissed his eyes, and bit his cheek. In the end, Towizi laughed. "Let's go to the theater. First floor. The captain is an NPC, a muscular middle-aged man. If you can't handle him, I go with you," Mo Feng said, leaning against the wall with his arms folded. Chapter 315. Mo Feng had already figured out the entire cabin crew, identifying NPCs and players. The captain was an NPC, a muscular, 2-meter-tall middle-aged man. He looked formidable, likely a power-type monster. Li Shanxi was slender, and didn't look strong. If it were a stranger, Mo Feng wouldn't bother to intervene, but since she was Lei's younger sister, he felt it was best to lend a hand. "Lei boss has assigned us both a mission. Let's split up. If you complete your mission first, come help me. For now, focus on your own mission." Li Shanxi spoke with neither servitude nor arrogance. Although a woman, she clearly possessed courage and determination. Mo Feng didn't know Li Shanxi's strength, but since things had come to that point, he couldn't force her to help first. Mo Feng turned and left. The cruise ship's food storage cold storage was vast, with no end in sight. Only with such a large supply could a global voyage be possible. Mo Feng walked in cautiously, expecting some uncanny attack, but after a quick circle, he found the place deserted. The cold storage fan was humming loudly, spinning continuously, sending cold air flowing. Mo Feng obtained a hammer, and violently smashed the cooling system. After the hammer broke, a question suddenly occurred to him. "It's so cold on the deck. If the cold storage is broken, wouldn't it be better to just move the food outside? A natural cold storage. So, even if the cooling system was destroyed, it was useless. Lei's goal was to destroy the food. Mo Feng looked at the endless pile of food, thinking it would be an easy task, but it turned out to be a trap. Mo Feng thought for a few seconds before coming up with a solution. He let out a sly grin. Li Shanxi passed one NPC after another, and arrived at the ship's control room. The door to the control room was locked. It was made of steel, but there was a circular glass panel in the center of the door, allowing a clear view of the equipment inside and the captain, who was sitting in a chair smoking. Just as Mo Feng had described, the middle-aged man was 2 meters tall and very muscular. His arms were thicker than her thighs, and his back and chest muscles were extremely well developed. He was smoking, his eyes narrowed, and his head resting on the chair. Li Shanxi observed the captain through the circular glass panel, quietly waiting for his opportunity. After finishing his cigarette, the captain was clearly feeling sleepy. He closed his eyes to rest, and soon his mouth began to open and close rhythmically. The steel door of the control room was soundproof, so no sounds could be heard from inside, but judging by the degree of his mouth opening and closing, it seemed he was snoring. Li Shanxi immediately used a tool to pick the lock. If it were an ordinary lock, she could pick it herself without the need for tools, but this was the control room door lock of a large ship, making it difficult. Tools were quick and silent, and Li Shanxi made no sound as she entered. Frequent dungeon runs had honed Li Shanxi's ability to walk silently, so even on a sparse road, she could do so with minimal noise. The only sound in the control room was the captain's thunderous snoring. Li Shanxi glanced at the door with some concern. She had left it open to facilitate her own escape and to allow Mo Feng to arrive for reinforcements. But there were also drawbacks. What if an NPC entered? She would be vulnerable from both sides. Without further thought, Li Shanxi had already moved behind the captain and thrust a sharp knife directly into his temple. The tip of the knife pierced the flesh, only just a little bit before it gave way. This flesh is so tough. Even such a sharp prop knife can't pierce it? Li Shanxi quickly retreated, but it was too late. A small puncture on her temple left a trail of blood. The captain instantly woke up, grabbed the knife, pulled it out, and threw it at the back of Li Shanxi's head. Li Shanxi bowed forward quickly, but the knife flew with such force and speed that her ponytail was severed in half. She felt a pain at the back of her head, a laceration to her skin. Thankfully, it didn't penetrate her head directly, but grazed her skin. Li Shanxi turned and threw the petrification tool. The captain's feet began to petrify, slowly extending upwards. But before they were halfway there, the captain stomped his foot hard, shattering the stone beneath them. He strode towards Li Shanxi, each step a thunderous thud. Li Shanxi swung with his knife, but he blocked with his arm, barely scratching his flesh. No serious injury at all. The captain's hand clamped down on Li Shanxi's neck, choking him instantly. The pain was so intense. "Who are you? What's attacking me?" the captain roared. Li Shanxi was speechless. The pain was so intense, her neck felt like it was about to break. The captain's other hand grasped the top of her head, holding it firmly, and lifting her up. Her feet were off the ground, and he released his grip. Li Shanxi finally managed to breathe, but her head felt tight, as if it were about to be crushed. "Ahem. I'm staying on the 9th floor. My room card is in my pocket." Li Shanxi fumbled for her room card. The captain licked his lips. He didn't believe it. He wanted to crush the woman's head. Human brains were delicious. Li Shanxi fished the room card from his pocket and held it up. The captain's grip faltered upon seeing the golden card. A strange expression crossed his face, one clearly dissatisfied but obliged to obey the rules. He held his breath and asked, "Why would the 9th floor guest come to the control room and suddenly attack me? You must have stolen the guest's room card, damn you!" As if finding a reason, he immediately increased his pressure on Li Shanxi's head. The pain in his head was unbearable, and Li Shanxi was ready to abandon his props and flee. But now that he had alerted the enemy, another surprise attack would be even more difficult. Li Shanxi refused to give in. "The top floor guest sent me here," Li Shanxi shouted. The captain paused again. "Mr. Tavisai?" "Yes, he's very dissatisfied with you." Li Shanxi began to ramble. "Put me down first. You're so powerful, are you afraid I run away? Mr. Tavisai has something for you." "Humph, Mr. Tavisai hates humans the most. How could he let a stinking bug like you deliver a message?" the captain said in disbelief. But he still let go of Li Shanxi. Li Shanxi stumbled to his feet and gasped. "Mr. Tavisai asked me to ask how long it would take to reach shore." The captain, with an arrogant expression, simply said, "We're only halfway there. We're deep in the Pacific Ocean now. It'd take a long time to reach shore." Li Shanxi looked the captain up and down. Just now, through the glass mirror, he could only see the captain sitting at the back of his chair and hadn't noticed him. The captain was muscular, seemingly without any weaknesses. His clothes were thin, and if you got closer, you could see the subtle rise and fall of his chest where his heart was. Yes, the rise and fall of his heartbeat. You need to press your hand against your chest to feel the heartbeat carefully. How can you see it through clothing, unless it's a deformity, like an exocardia, where the heart isn't located in the chest cavity but beneath the cortex, beating through it? So that's his weakness? Mr. Taw said he doesn't want to follow the planned route anymore. He asked me to tell you. Li Shanxi's voice sank lower and lower. The captain, being tall, couldn't help but duck his head to listen. Li Shanxi quickly exchanged for a prop knife and stabbed him in the chest. It was fast, but the captain's arm blocked it just as quickly. The tip of the knife grazed his arm, piercing his chest a little, and then the knife was knocked away again. The captain punched Li Shanxi in the chest, sending him flying. Damn human! The captain cried out in pain. His chest was bleeding from a laceration to his heart. He screamed and transformed, his muscles swelling and doubling in size. He reached a full 4 meters tall, pressing against the control room ceiling, looking as terrifying as a human-shaped elephant. Li Shanxi flew to the door. Her mouth tasted blood when she coughed. Her ribs must have been broken. This transformation made it even more difficult to deal with. Li Shanxi had no choice but to run. Li Shanxi was about to use the teleportation tool when the door suddenly opened and Mo Feng walked in, holding a terrifying doll with glowing red gemstone eyes. Chapter 316. Mo Feng held up the Doom doll, making its eyes meet the captain's. Then he stepped back and gave Li Shanxi a direct push. Go kill him. Li Shanxi, confused by Mo Feng's actions, quickly said, this creature is incredibly strong, and its skin is incredibly tough. It's very difficult to deal with. Mo Feng glanced at the captain. His weakness is in his heart. He has an external heart, so stabbing him there is difficult. I tried, and it's difficult. I assist you, you go. Mo Feng spoke concisely and decisively. This was their first time working together, and they had no chemistry. Li Shanxi had no choice but to trust Mo Feng. Li Shanxi exchanged for 2 sharp knife items, and also an agility-boosting item, instantly increasing his speed by 50%. Women are generally more flexible and quicker, making them faster at twisting and turning than men. The captain was strong and bulky, but his weakness was the slow movement of his lower limbs and slow turning. After Li Shanxi's acuity speed increased, he could keep up with the captain. However, this item's speed decreased by 5% every 30 seconds, meaning it would lose its effectiveness after 5 minutes. Furthermore, it could only be used once a day, leaving Li Shanxi with only 5 minutes to strangle his opponent. Mo Feng's presence provided an extra layer of protection. But Li Shanxi wasn't used to entrusting her life to others. While she attacked fiercely, she felt a lingering fear and worry. Mo Feng stood there, motionless, holding the doll. He had promised to assist, but he didn't take any action. Li Shanxi glanced at him distractedly, filled with confusion. Did Mo Feng assist her? What happened? Li Shanxi fought for 2 minutes without piercing the captain's heart. However, she dodged the 4-meter-tall giant NPC with mutant muscles, leaping from all angles to dodge his attacks, each time successfully dodging. At first, she thought it was the power-up of the item, as her dodging and attacking success rate was 100%. But as time passed, the power-up gradually decreased, and she could clearly feel her dodging speed slowing down. The captain roared, stomping his feet on the ground with a loud thud, raising his fist to smash at Li Shanxi. Just as the massive fist was about to strike Li Shanxi's head, the roller skate chair on the ground suddenly slid and hit the captain's heel, startling him. The fist deflected, and Li Shanxi narrowly avoided it again. The captain glanced at the chair on the ground and angrily stomped it to pieces. At that moment, Li Shanxi also found her opportunity. She leaped from behind onto his shoulders, then leaped down toward his chest. Just as she landed over his heart, she thrust forward with a sudden thrust. Ah! The captain screamed. Such a commotion. Mo Feng threw a soundproofing device and shook the doomed doll in his hand, causing its eyes to light up again. The captain flailed around in pain, damaging all the equipment in the control cabin. The pain in his heart was so intense that he twisted and scrambled. Li Shanxi felt like she was going to be crushed to death in a second, so she could only run as hard as she could towards a clearer area. But the captain kept stomping on her, causing the speed boost to fail, and Li Shanxi's speed immediately slowed. Li Shanxi's speed wasn't slow to begin with, but the captain's strides were several meters each, so she couldn't run. Li Shanxi also stepped on the broken chair and tripped, falling flat on her face with a thud. When she realized what was happening, she saw a huge shadow falling towards her. Li Shanxi could only raise the knife and stab. The sound of the knife slicing into flesh was followed by the sound of a giant blood bag bursting. Blood sprayed all over her face, and she was then pinned down by the giant object, unable to breathe. Mo Feng put away the doll of misfortune and washed his hands with mineral water, as if he was disgusted by touching it. Mo Feng stood aside and waited, until Li Shanxi finally crawled out of the bottom of the giant pile of flesh in a panic. As the captain collapsed, his heart landed on the tip of Li Shanxi's raised knife, piercing it completely. What bad luck. Li Shanxi sat on the ground, panting and looking utterly undignified. She glanced at Emophone and saw that he no longer had the doll in his hand. She hesitantly asked, "That doll of yours is a prop, right? Is this how you assist?" She thought Emophone was just watching the show, not assisting at all, but in fact, he was assisting the entire time. Only after the other party saw through it did Emophone offer to introduce it, a god-level item, the Doom Doll. I also call it the Curse Doll. Anyone who looks into its eyes will have their inner thoughts read, and misfortune will descend upon them. Nothing they do will succeed, and they suffer misfortune everywhere. He couldn't hit Li Shanxi no matter what he did. He even got hit on the leg by a chair, and even fell down with his heart piercing Li Shanxi's sword. All this was the result of Emofeng's assistance. Li Shanxi laughed at this, struggling to stand up from the ground, coughing and spitting out a trace of blood. She had a broken rib. "This doll item doesn't fit your image at all," Li Shanxi said with a smile. "You're such a tough guy, playing support, and I'm playing aggressively. It's completely different." Emophone, who says men can't play support? Women can't play main attack? It's just stereotypes. Li Shanxi nodded. That's right, there's no stereotype. For example, Boss Lele looks pretty and cute, but she kills without blinking an eye. Emophone removed the soundproofing. The two left the control room. On the way back, Li Shanxi asked, "Did you complete your mission so quickly? It's so cold out on the deck, destroying the cold storage seems pointless, right? Did you encounter any scary NPCs?" Emophone, "No NPCs, it's done." "No NPCs? That mission was easy." After a few awkward words, the two of them stopped talking and returned to the upper cabin, each going about their own business. Li Shanxi had always been curious about how Emophone had ruined the food in the cold storage. That evening, when the players went to the restaurant for dinner, they found it empty, and the NPCs were in a panic. "Manager, all the food in the cold storage is rotten." The NPC staff members gathered around a suited manager and said. The players stood in the distance, bewildered, and many of the NPC guests, who had come to eat, looked impatient. "Isn't it time for dinner? Why is there no food? What's going on?" One NPC flew into a rage. "Is this the treatment for luxury tourists? There's no food in the restaurants. I already visited several. What's going on? I'm hungry. I'm so hungry." Some NPCs even let out a low, beastly growl, their eyes reddening as they stared around, especially at the players, drooling. The players were terrified by the scene and retreated. The manager, with a sullen face, led his men to the cold storage to investigate, and a few brave players followed to watch the excitement. Li Shanxi and Jing Gui followed the NPCs, and a small group of players. Arriving at the cold storage, the door was wide open. Even before they approached, they could smell the stench of decay. Rotten vegetables were still odorous, but rotten meat was a stench that was unbearable. Everyone covered their noses. The manager went in, holding a handkerchief to his nose, his rage growing with every glance. "What the hell is going on?" An NPC employee reported. "When we came down to retrieve the food, we found it was completely rotten. The cooling system was damaged, even turning into a heating system. We also found highly active yeast powder and enzymes on the ground. Someone had sprinkled these on the vegetables and meat, and within a few hours, all the food had gone bad. This huge amount of food, the rations for everyone on the ship, is still deep in the Pacific Ocean, with no way of getting to shore anytime soon. The consequences are unimaginable." The NPCs and players at the scene all looked grim. Li Shanxi glanced back at the crowd and saw Emophone. The murderer truly loves to return to the scene. Emophone noticed another gaze and looked back, catching sight of the woman in red in the corner. The mastermind also enjoys inspecting the scene. Chapter 317. Wulu arrived to inspect the results. Everyone was still worried about the destruction of the cruise ship's food when even more devastating news arrived. "The captain is dead. Someone killed the captain." The NPC's shock was well acted, instantly sending everyone into a panic, and the players were even more bewildered. Jing Gui said to Li Shanxi, "The dungeon game has truly begun. The battle for survival. Have you decided which faction to choose?" Li Shanxi was puzzled. What factions are there? Jing Gui analyzed. Ship staff, ordinary tourists, and VIP tourists, 3 factions. Li Shanxi thought her words made sense, but felt something was missing. "Jing Gui, if you were here, which faction would you choose?" "Staff. After all, the staff know the entire ship better. Although the food in the cold storage is gone, there should still be some food stored at room temperature, just not enough for everyone." Li Shanxi glanced at the people around her, and noticed Mo Feng's eyes glancing back. She followed his gaze, and saw Wu Le standing in the shadows, arms folded, smiling. Jing Gui, actually, from the moment we received our room cards, our identities and factions were automatically chosen. I never understood why this dungeon emphasizes choosing a faction. Survival is survival. What does it have to do with factions? Actually, I naturally chose our identities and factions so that we can form our own powerful teams. As Jing Gui spoke, Li Shanxi suddenly had a sudden suspicion and was shocked. Others might have the right to choose, but she and Mo Feng didn't. Because from the beginning, they were Boss Wu Li's people, belonging exclusively to Wu Li's faction. Li Shanxi finally understood. Mo Feng knew the mission the moment Wu Li assigned it. So Mo Feng didn't need to think too much, he just followed Wu Li's lead. The place was a chaotic mess, which Mo Feng disliked. After ensuring everyone had a look at his crime scene, he left contentedly. Besides the chaos and the NPCs who threatened to go mad, there were no clues at all, so the wise ones chose to leave. The remaining people wanted more information, but were instead severely injured by the maddened NPCs. Instantly, the scene was in chaos, and everyone fled in all directions. Without their captain, the cruise ship was stranded in the middle of the ocean. Pitch blackness surrounded them, with only the cold wind and the sound of the sea for all to hear. What do we do now? We're just ordinary tourists. Can we get emergency food? Qin Zhao, a member of the Black and Red Guild, was recruited by Yi Ming and had always been a member of his group. One moment, he was imprisoned in the Black and Red Guild's prison, and the next he was in a dungeon with his colleagues. The others either died or escaped. The only person who had gathered with them was Li Mingjia. They were college classmates and had started working together. They had the misfortune of joining the horror game together, then joining the Black and Red Guild together, and now, being thrown into this dungeon together. They suspected that Red had abandoned them, leaving them to fend for themselves in the dungeon. They were grateful that Red hadn't killed them, the rebels, but had given them a chance to find their own way. Qin Zhao's injuries had mostly healed, and Li Mingjia stayed with her constantly. They both had room cards. They shared a standard room with 2 beds, a standard room for ordinary residents on the first floor, and a windowless room. Li Mingjia, the staff here clearly discriminate against guests of different classes. We're at the bottom of the heap, and food is scarce and expensive right now, so we probably won't get any. Qin Zhao, so what do we have to do? Join forces with the other lower-class guests and fight for food? Li Mingjia, don't use that tactic unless absolutely necessary. They say you shouldn't hit someone who smiles. We can try to be nice to the staff and make some friends with the higher-class guests. At this point, Qin Zhao's stomach growled. Sorry, I'm a little hungry. Since we can't get any dungeon food, we have to buy it ourselves. Li Mingjia, I tried, and the player store can't buy food. It was disabled when everyone discovered the food in the cold storage was damaged. You can't even redeem a bottle of water? Qin Zhao was surprised. You can't even redeem a single pill. Thankfully, I cured your injury early. Li Mingjia's face darkened. They couldn't buy any food, medicine, or even warm clothing from the player store. This dungeon was brutal. There was a chaotic cacophony of noise everywhere, and order began to break down. Wu Li returned to the top floor room. Tada, are you really not going out to see the show? There's a good show everywhere. Towizi sat on the sofa in a bathrobe, his long hair draped, his face pale, the very image of a sickly beauty. My ID card says I'm a seriously ill wealthy businessman. Towizi looked up, touched his face, and pretended to cough. You look so sick, it makes me soft-hearted. Wu Li sat on his lap. Your ID card says I'm a seriously ill wealthy businessman, but your true power is still there. Why do I always feel like your power is fading? Thomas's eyes evaded, and he began to play dumb again. Something strange happened today, not following the plot. They kept flashing into altered forms, killing some players prematurely. They were all very agitated, as if out of control. You should ask the supervisor about this, Thomas interrupted her. Xiao He was watching them from the darkness, warning them to follow the dungeon plot, but they kept testing the rules, even what? Thomas felt a little guilty. Wu Li, even though I didn't follow the dungeon plot, I didn't feel any suppression. I felt like the dungeon ID card wasn't suppressing me anymore. Taz hugged her waist and kissed her cheek. Really? That proves your power is growing. The dungeon isn't suppressing you anymore, and you're freer. Isn't that what you always longed for, Lele? I'm happy for you. Wu Li narrowed her eyes at him. In this dungeon I'm the siren. The siren ID card suppresses me, preventing me from straying from the path, but I can freely transform into my original form and disrupt the plot at will. It's so freeing, I'm really not used to it. Then enjoy this freedom. This is your playground. If you want to follow the dungeon, go ahead. If you want to destroy, go ahead. Taz said dotingly. Stop. Are you happy for me? Why do I feel like you're looking down on me from a god's perspective? Wulu seized the opportunity, sensing a hint of superiority in Taz's expression. Taz's eyes widened as he feigned ignorance. Ah? I'm not God, I'm a knight. I watch and protect you. Wulu had a guess and wanted to try to expose Taz, but he was afraid he might be wrong, and even more afraid he might be right. Tada, if you were a supervisor, would you release your prisoners? The question was obvious enough, she was eager to try, so why would he continue to feign ignorance? His Lele was too clever, a single moment of weakness had revealed the truth to her. Taz's eyelashes trembled slightly. He could have lied, but he felt the thrill of revealing a hint of truth. Taz's eyes were dangerous as he whispered, of course not. I wouldn't. Wu Li's smile vanished instantly, and she stood up from him, turning and walking away. Taz felt relieved, but panic still set in when she saw her back. Lele. He tried to hug her, but she instantly slammed a tentacle into his face. Snap, a loud throb. Taz's face was ripped and bruised, rotting from the corners of his mouth to his temples, blood oozing out. It was a unique kind of beauty. He licked the blood from the corner of his mouth with the tip of his tongue, his eyes red as he asked softly, Lele, did you hit me in the face? Chapter 318. Taz was in a state of dismay. Perhaps no one, except Wulu, would dare to smack him in the face like this. Wulu took 2 steps back, her smile fading, her expression determined. You could have continued to play dumb and deceive me, but instead, you were provoking me. She'd been pretending for so long, and she could have kept up the act. Taz appeared to be a quirky, weak-kneed individual, but in reality, he was incredibly conceited and secretly delighted at every moment. He was just waiting to see when she would discover his secret. When she did, he wasn't afraid, wasn't panicked, only delighted, and he slowly bared his fangs and rubbed them against her. Boiling a frog in warm water? A honey trap? Wulu couldn't cook it, nor would she mindlessly sink into depravity for anyone. She always remembered her goal. You expended a great deal of energy to get me to Paradise Town, and now you have to keep all the dungeons running. That's why you're becoming increasingly weaker, and your strength is constantly draining. Wulu boldly speculated that all the dungeons relied on Taz's power to operate. In his prime, Taz could have powered the entire dungeon without a single flaw. But sending her out cost him his strength, which is why he's so weak now. Perhaps it's not just this dungeon's strangeness that's stirring, the other dungeons running simultaneously are doing the same. Sending me out cost you so much? Shouldn't you be strong? Wulu didn't understand. Paradise Town is still a terrorist tourist territory. I haven't completely left, so how could it hurt you so much? Since you're so good at pretending, I still wonder if you're just pretending to make me feel bad. Taz remained silent, his face bleeding. The strange wound should have healed quickly, but he refused to let it bleed, let the flesh peel back, and just tilt his face slightly for Wulu to see. Every moment was filled with Tavis's accusations, silent grievances, and questions. You hit my face, you injured my face, your favorite spot, the spot on my body I'm most satisfied with. This image was useful to Wulu. After all, Wulu liked Tavis not just that face, but also this strange thing. Wuli's eyes were less sharp. But I still believe you're truly weak. It's because of weakness that you're showing off. Otherwise, it would take me a long time to figure out your secret. Wulu walked back and sat back on the sofa. Facing Tavis, who stood with half his face covered in blood, her eyes couldn't help but flicker to the wound, then look away. Tavis, what would you do if I completely left the Terror Tour territory? Everything had rules. Paradise Town didn't allow strange things to happen, but Wulu had appeared there, thanks to Tavis's help. Therefore, he was defying the rules, which was why he was so exhausted. If she escaped from the horror game and went to the human world, perhaps according to the rules, the human world must not allow strange things to occur. If she went there, she would break the rules. What would happen to her? What would happen to Tavis? If she went to the human world, would she be punished for breaking the rules and suffer the consequences? Or would Tavis, the supervisor, be held responsible? Tavis saw her thoughts. He dipped his fingers into the blood on his face, twisted them together, and whispered, I'm at my weakest now. Once this instance is over, I'd be able to recover. Now is the perfect time for you to escape. Still provoking, was Taz trying to see if she would give in because of him? Do you think I won't turn against you? Wulu asked dangerously. Taz's lips curled up, pulling at the wound on his face, causing more blood to flow. He stepped closer, drops of blood dripping onto the carpet with a dull thud. His bloody fingers traced the same lines on Wu Li's cheek, retracing the wound. You can even destroy my face. Aren't you already against me? His eyes were hurt. You've been lying to me from the beginning, and I'm not allowed to be angry? Wu Lu demanded. Didn't I tell you I hate deception? When you said you hated deception, you were already suspicious of me. Smart Lei had been suspicious of him the moment she saw him after returning from Paradise Town. In front of him, she ordered those two filthy humans to carry out a task that should have been performed by NPCs. Is Taz provoking? No, it was Wu Lu who was provoking. She had been sabotaging the dungeon plot from the very beginning. Lulu, do you love me? Towizi asked timidly, his confidence fading, as he touched Wu Li's cheek. Two different things. Then tell me, do you love me? Wu Lu was angry, and didn't want to answer. So what if he didn't? Towizi was so smart, couldn't he guess? Towizi could guess, but he wasn't confident now, so he didn't trust his own guess. The stalemate continued. His blood seemed to flow endlessly, soaking the carpet. What's your relationship with Xiao He? A clone. Wu Lu was surprised by such an honest answer, but his expression remained composed. Does it know it's a clone? I don't know. It's actually become independent. Xiao He originated as a part of Tavis's body, but after separating, it developed its own consciousness and became an independent entity. Is it monitoring me? Yes. As long as there are copies of Wu Lu, there's Xiao He. Xiao He doesn't know his origins, but he knows he must keep an eye on Wu Lu, monitor the direction of the copies, and monitor other strange things. Tavis is a massive energy supplier, keeping all copies running. But it's also fair to say he's the true supervisor, because the suppressive power of the copy's ID card comes from him. All strange things are controlled by the copy's ID card, by him. Xiao He is just a small copy, a miniature supervisor. The true supervisor is Tavis. Wu Lu understood, and she didn't want to watch Tavis bleed before her eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. She walked away. She flicked her tail. Taz quickly reached out to pull her away, but missed. The cold tail of the fish brushed against his palm, carrying a hint of fishy, yet fragrant aroma. From the balcony, a sound of water splashing in the water was heard. She had plunged into the seabed. Taz stiffly covered his mouth and nose with his hand. The pain in his cheeks persisted. He felt a mixture of joy and unease. But he didn't regret not pretending today. Lei, my biggest lie has been exposed. I won't lie to you again. You can't hate me anymore, he muttered to himself. Chapter 319. Late at night, Mo Feng returned to the staff dormitory and, looking at the several NPCs in the room, was speechless for a moment. He walked in and greeted them. I heard the food's all gone, and I didn't have dinner either. What should we do now? Is there any place for us employees to eat? We don't know about that. We should follow the supervisor's instructions. I don't think everyone will starve to death, one NPC said cooperatively. Another NPC even laughed. You don't have food, but we do. Mo Feng glanced at the laughing NPC. This weirdo wasn't even acting anymore. I encountered several weirdos like this today. The weirdos before were still acting, even able to chat up the conversation. Isn't the weirdo freedom a bit too high in this dungeon? Mo Feng decided he couldn't stay here tonight. What if these weirdos ate him in the middle of the night? I'm going to wash up. Mo Feng grabbed a wash basin and went out. Let's find a quiet, warm, and friendly corner to sleep. The fourth floor housed guest rooms and staff quarters. The cruise ship's team leaders and supervisors all stayed there, and there were also spare rooms. Mo Feng pried open an empty room and went to sleep. The water wasn't out yet, so Mo Feng quickly showered and found some empty bottles, filling them with water and hiding them in this room for emergencies. Just as he had hidden the water, he heard movement on the balcony. The fourth floor balcony was small, with only one chair, making it difficult for 2 or 3 people to turn around. Mo Feng rushed over with a knife in hand and immediately spotted Wu Lu, a wet figure, climbing over the railing. Wu Li's body was covered in scales, but the moment she emerged, her red skirt transformed into her dark blue fishtail, and her legs became legs. Only her seaweed-like hair remained wet. Mo Feng quickly sheathed his knife and approached. Why are you here so suddenly? Wu Lu pouted, looking like she'd been bullied. Feng, I've been deceived, both physically and mentally. He's been a liar from beginning to end, a complete jerk. Huh? Mo Feng's head buzzed with shock. He took 2 steps forward. What's going on? Wu Lu shook her hair in frustration, splashing the salty water onto her face. She entered the room. Mo Feng quickly went to the bathroom, fetched a dry towel, and covered her head with it. Wipe it off. Wula held her head in her hands, rubbing the towel with her fingers to wipe her hair. Suddenly, she remembered that it was Tavis who had helped dry her wet hair earlier. Now, Mo Feng remained silent, actually processing what Wula had just said. You're saying Taz lied to you? I don't have proof, but I don't need it. After cooling off in the icy water, I cleared my head. He's so mean. Wula, having dried his hair, tossed the towel to the floor once it was no longer dripping. A complete liar from beginning to end. He must have found it amusing to observe me, watching me like that, trying to make me feel like one, to get closer. He even pretended to be a weirdo like me, awakening self-awareness? Gradually developing unique memories? From chaotic amnesia to recollection? What an acting talent. This is such a huge amount of information. Too much. Mo Feng's brows twitched. Mo Feng picked up the towel from the floor and shook off the non-existent dust. Do you want me to change your towel? Wula raised his eyes and rolled his eyes directly at Mo Feng. Feng, are you just drying your hair now? Well, your relationship is in trouble, you've been cheated on, and you're angry. So what are you going to do? Mo Feng supported Wula in everything she did. I'm not just angry. I finally know who the enemy I've been searching for all these years is. It's so far away, and now it's right in front of me. Wula was actually feeling a little lonely. She'd been feeling mixed emotions while soaking in the seawater just now. She desperately needed someone to talk to, so she came to Mo Feng. But Mo Feng was too quiet, and his emotional value wasn't enough. Missing Su Qianyang and Pei Lin, Wula thought that Li Shanxi, as a girl, was more sensitive. Why not go find her? Go get Xusi down. Why don't you go directly to Li Shanxi's room? Hers is more luxurious, and the sofa is more comfortable. Mo Feng was being mean, asking even though he knew the answer. Wu Lele lashed out with a tentacle, leaving a red mark. Don't you want to think about who's upstairs? I'm not going. Just the smell of him makes me want to bite him. Wu Lele's words were sincere. The pain of being hit hurt. Mo Feng rubbed his nose and said, okay, I go get her. Soon, Li Shanxi and Mo Feng came in together. Li Shanxi was confused. Mo Feng said, someone's bullying our boss, Lele. Li Shanxi frowned. Who? Who's looking for death? The two of them looked so protective of their boss. Wu Lele saw these two people still standing by her. Although they weren't of the same kind, she felt relieved. Xiaoxi, help me dry my hair. Wula curled up on the sofa, blinking adorably. Li Shanxi immediately went over, fetched a clean towel, and helped dry her hair. He could smell her fragrance, a hint of fishy odor. Xiaoxi, if you were in a relationship and found out your boyfriend had been lying to you the entire time, that your meeting, your relationship, and your love were all orchestrated by him, what would you do? What would you, a human girl, do? Wei had no shame at all, and didn't feel embarrassed at all about sharing such a difficult relationship. She was very open and honest. Wula felt both smart and a little slow, so she wanted to hear a third-person perspective. Li Shanxi gently wiped her hair and said, before entering the dungeon, I went to the Black and Red Guild and met Pei Lin. He told me some things about you, and that you had a very beautiful boyfriend. Yes. Wula had told Pei Lin that the people she recruited were trustworthy and could share their stories. Li Shanxi, although I don't fully understand what's going on between you and your boyfriend, lies can be either well-intentioned or malicious. If his deception hurts you, then he's wrong. Boss Lele, you are the most important person. You're the only one who can decide whether this relationship can continue. No one else can give you advice. His lies weren't well-intentioned or malicious. He just loves to lie, but they didn't hurt me. They can't hurt me. Besides, he even helped me get to Paradise Town. Li Shanxi combed Wu Li's hair, having dried it. Wula sat on the sofa, lost in thought. Li Shanxi thought it would be best to let her think it over, so he quietly stayed by her side. Mo Feng grasped the key point. Lele, what do you mean by saying he's an enemy? Wu Li's eyes narrowed suddenly, and she looked up. I can't tell you now, but I can tell you clearly that there will definitely be a fight between Tavis and me from now on. Taz had been acting out her identity since boarding school, fearing she'd discover his true identity. If she discovered he was the supervisor from the start, she'd have immediately started a fight with him, and there would have been no romance. Wula knew she truly loved Taz now, and that he loved her too. There was no doubt about that, they wouldn't break up. But Taz's identity was what Wula cared about most. He was the cage that held her captive, the true supervisor. If she ever wanted to leave, and Taz didn't allow it, there would undoubtedly be a fight between them. Now, they were lovers, but also enemies. Fighting with Tata. She thought about it, and she actually felt a little excited. Wu Li's eyes turned red, his expression fierce, strangely bellicose and aggressive. This kind of Wu Li was rare, and Mo Feng and Li Shanxi were captivated. Mo Feng crossed his arms and said gently, "Lulu, I'm tongue-tied and don't know what to say. I can only say that as a human, I'm weaker than you, but I'm on your side. Just let me know if you need help." He wasn't as attentive as Pei Lin, nor as sweet-talking as Su Qinyang, but he was a loyal younger brother. "Add me in. Once you're the boss, you have to be loyal. Lulu, I always be on your side." Li Shanxi had no trusted friends in horror game, no close friends, and she was eager to join this special group. Wu Li had been in a tizzy for the better part of a day, but now it was late at night, and she had calmed down. "I stay here. You guys can do whatever you want." Wu Li's mood brightened, and she took the large bed, sprawling across it. Mo Feng looked around the room. There was only a 1.5-meter sofa left. Mo Feng said goodbye. "I go find another room next door." Li Shanxi didn't want to go back to the 9th floor. "Lulu, can I share a room with you?" "Okay." Top floor. The room was filled with vases filled with red and blue roses. The carpet was also covered with petals. The bathroom tub was filled with hot water and also sprinkled with petals. Candles, cakes, beautiful dolls, new dresses, and lots of flowers. It looked like a confession of love, or a proposal, but it was actually an apology. He waited for Lele to return, then apologized. Tavis, in his nightgown, held a large bouquet of flowers, slowly removing the thorns with a pair of scissors. His long black hair was loosely tied with a white ribbon. The wound on his face had healed, but his beautiful face was intact. His eyes were filled with love, anticipating Willa's return. But it was almost dawn, and he still couldn't smell her approaching. Tavis grew increasingly uneasy. "Will Lele break up with me?" Chapter 320. Tavis fidgeted restlessly in his room. He could smell Lulu on the 4th floor. He could go find her, but he didn't dare. Because Tavis had a feeling that if he went to find Lulu now, Lulu would fight him with all her might. She wouldn't just smash his face, she'd tear his head off. The weird were ferocious creatures, inherently belligerent. They want to fight and see blood for no reason, especially now that there was a reason. Until he had successfully apologized, Tavis didn't dare to provoke Lulu. On this point, Tavis was very self-aware. But regarding the breakup, Tavis felt a little unsure, and he anxiously cut the bouquet. The room was filled with the fragrance of flowers, and the sound of the scissors clicking was crisp. Suddenly, Tavis paused, his eyes filled with disgust. A small black cat, its tail raised high, approached with an elegant catwalk. His whiskers stretched, his ears pointed, his tail held high. Every movement betrayed his good mood. "Go away!" Taz exuded a dangerous aura. Hei's ears instantly arched, but he still held his tail erect. He only dared to stand on the balcony, not stepping on the carpet. Hei awkwardly wagged his tail, his eyes rolling as he grinned. "She's really angry." His tone was gloating. Hei's voice remained unpleasant. As pleasant as Taz's own voice was, Hei's voice was just as unpleasant. Taz could transform into a beautiful human form, but Hei didn't even have the ability to transform. Not only could he not take on a human form, he couldn't even take on a strange form either. He remained a black cat. But their powers share a common origin, and Xiao Hei has always known that he and Tavis share some connection. But Xiao Hei has developed a consciousness of his own. While he may be a species formed from a portion of Tavis's discarded power, he has also become a distinct individual and, strictly speaking, cannot be called Tavis's clone. Wu Li even gave him a name, further strengthening his independence. Many strange things don't have names, but Xiao Hei has one. Seeing Tavis's lack of reaction, Xiao Hei pressed the issue. "Lulu wants to break up with you." He gloated with utter gloating. Tavis's grip on the scissors tightened, and he glanced at Xiao Hei with disdain. "Did you hear her?" This statement might sound questioning, but only Tavis knew how panicked he was. This stinky cat followed Lulu around every day. Could he have really heard something on the 4th floor? He heard Lulu saying she wanted to break up with him. Xiao Hei couldn't see Tavis's panic, but he could sense his lack of confidence. "She loves your face the most. She could even smash it. Do you think she still loves you? She didn't even bother to break up with you. She doesn't even want to see you anymore, doesn't want to talk to you anymore." Xiao Hei's voice was nauseating, and his words were murderous. Swish! The scissors flew out, instantly piercing Xiao Hei's raised tail. They sent Xiao Hei flying backwards, piercing the balcony wall, pinning the black cat to it. Meow! The cat's scream startled the night. Instantly, the spooks downstairs became even more restless. Xiaohei didn't want to die yet. The show had just begun, and he couldn't bear to start over again in the next instance. The black cat struggled so hard that half its tail was torn off, and it leaped onto the balcony railing, uttering as it fled, "She doesn't love you anymore. She kill you, and then run away forever. Get lost." Tavis's defenses were broken, and his dark brown tentacles lashed out at the balcony, shattering the entire structure. Debris rained down, startling many monsters and players. The commotion was so loud that even the fourth floor could hear it. Li Shanxi, who had just lain down, jumped up, glanced at Wu Lu, who was wearing a white suspender pajamas beside him, and then at the debris on the balcony. "Boss Lele, something seems to have happened upstairs." Wu Li's eyes were closed, motionless. The monster had no heartbeat or breathing, and even her temperature was very low. Lying beside her, she looked like a beautiful corpse. Li Shanxi wasn't sure if she was asleep or not, when Wu Lu suddenly spoke. "Did you hear which floor it is?" "10th floor." Li Shanxi had good hearing. Wu Lu rolled his eyes, closing them. "What's the big deal? Lie down." "Oh, okay." Li Shanxi brushed his hair, and lay down again. A sweet scent lingered at the tip of his nose, a fishy odor. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was undeniable, a constant reminder that someone eerie lay beside him. "How magical." Li Shanxi sniffed. "Do I smell bad? The fishy smell is too strong?" Wu Lu muttered. "It's okay, boss. You're a mermaid. What's your role in this dungeon? You're asking so openly, and you don't even try to act." Wu Lu lazily rolled over and slept on his stomach, his face pressed against the pillow. He looked at Li Shanxi. The pillow was so soft that half of his face was buried in it, revealing only the other half of his beautiful face. Li Shanxi was stunned for a second, then said naively, as expected of a mermaid. Wu Lu blinked slowly, her long eyelashes fluttering like a small fan, her eyes watering. "Which dungeon of mine isn't pretty? You don't look pretty as a ghost." Li Shanxi had seen her ghost bride's face, rotting. "You humans have no aesthetic sense. My altered form has always been beautiful. Among all the weird things, my aesthetic sense is excellent." "So you also call that form altered? I thought it was just a player thing." Wu Li's eyes widened, as if to say, "Are you talking nonsense?" Li Shanxi couldn't help but move closer to such an affable boss and asked, "Let me tell you my guess about this dungeon. If you blink, it's right, and if you don't, it's wrong." "Okay." Wu Lu blinked. Li Shanxi's eyes lit up, and he began, "I heard that the wealthy man on the rooftop is in poor health. 5 years ago, there were even newspaper reports saying he was nearing death, but I don't know if the reports were true. In the past 5 years, he's taken a liking to sea travel. His family has purchased boats of all sizes, and he spends at least 200 days a year at sea. This year, he even hosted a circumnavigation of the seas on his largest private cruise ship and sold tickets. Many people, eager to experience the rich man's massive vessel, have booked rooms." Li Shanxi observed Wu Li's subtle expressions, even though only half of his face was visible. Li Shanxi continued, "The rich man loves to sail because he met a special friend at sea who can extend his life. This large-scale circumnavigation of the seas is a huge sacrifice, a gift to this friend, and also an exchange for the rich man's longevity." Wu Lu winked and smiled. "Yes." Li Shanxi was thrilled, and she couldn't help but lean closer. "You don't want to eat the people on this ship. You're just bored and want to watch them struggle. You have to remember that those monsters are also impersonating passengers and crew members. If they were all sacrificial offerings, Wu Lu wouldn't be able to kill them all." Wu Lu couldn't help but remind her, "Your guess is pretty close. The dungeon should have told you players that this is a survival dungeon. Choosing a faction means you can band together and survive based on your own abilities. However, you and Mo Feng don't get to choose. You can only follow me. You do whatever I tell you to do." Yeah, I get it. I follow you." Li Shanxi nodded. "Wu Lu, but now there's an unexpected twist. Tavis and I have had a bit of a falling out, and this dungeon. The monsters are more agitated than usual. I'm afraid the plot might not play out at times. You players, just be on your own." "Huh?" Li Shanxi's mouth dropped open slightly. This means that the dungeon's monsters are subject to change at any time, and survival depends on luck. With her thighs so close, Li Shanxi really wanted to hug her.